That's it. So yes, good afternoon to everybody. I think I have seen everybody during this day. There are no new persons here. Yes, we have some additional organization problems. This is the reason why I was a little bit late. What I want to say is thanks for coming. Hope you feel well here, hosted. And afternoon now will be a little bit more details about the project, about the HYPOSO project. We will go through all work packages. We can also discuss the topics. Yes, the system is, the time is like this. We will have now the keynote speech in 20 minutes. And then after that we will go through the work packages up to the floor, up to the mic work package. Then there will be a coffee break again in the restaurant in the ground floor. And after that, after the coffee break, we have work package 5, 6 to finish discussion about them and presentation. And then at 5 o'clock, or nearly roughly 5, we will have the panel discussion, role of the small hydropower in changing energy systems, with Dirk as a moderator and panels or key persons from each of the partner countries and also some additional. And then Ingo will make the conclusion, key messages, words, and approximately 6 we are finishing. Maybe later, depends how active you will be, how many questions we will have. And then we have some time between, which was also planned for some other discussions. And 7:30 we will have a gala dinner in restaurant Lötje, which is a old military arsenal in Delft, where the military had storing areas. This was a military museum up to last 5 years ago. They changed it from the museum in the hotel, in this restaurant. It's a nice brick building with very nice timber floors and so on. It's a nice building. Also, if somebody is interested, can also go into the hotel, which is in front of before restaurant, to see the nice old architecture. But similar is the restaurant looks on the similar way. The Lötje, the restaurant, is situated just. Yes, we are here. Here is the railway station.
We have to map.
No, I just want to say we can walk from here. We can decide when, because the easiest way is to walk in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You need 10 minutes walk, and we go through the old town, to the suburb of the old town, you can say, to the place. Here are the maps. I think the best way is to go around with it. You can see the restaurant, and we are expected there at 7:30. In reality, there will be the welcome drink, because the restaurant asked us if we could start with the dinner and ordering for the dinner. I think at 8 o'clock. But this means we can use this as additional time for discussions and standing with the drink and networking. And then 8:30 there will be dinner. We can stay in the restaurant till 10:30 approximately. Reason for this is that after that participants of the tour have to go to the hotel by bus. And we all other stays in Delft or what it is. Yes, this is the system. We can go back. I will go with you back to the bus. I will follow you to the bus. That's it. Dinner is you can choose different food from steak, tuna steak to vegetarian bowls. I hope for everybody there will be also something sweet, two sweet possibilities, and the drinks are included. This is also coffee and tea after the if you want. Yes, from my side there is nothing. Okay. Eddie said something about the IG. If you have any questions to IG, I will be happy to also to answer. But this we can do in the group. So, Igor, you start.
Okay. So then, hello everybody, also from my side. I start the series of presentations that we have now. We will go through all the work packages, or most of the work packages of HYPOSO. My presentation is basically just about the HYPOSO project. I will give you first some general information, and then tell you how the project is structured, inform you then about the objective and impact that we have, and then very briefly we'll just show some pictures and images that we had of the activities that during HYPOSO happened for and in our target countries. So the general information, of course, the full project title of HYPOSO is Hydropower Solutions for Developing and Emerging Countries. We are a Horizon 2020 funded EU program, started in September 2019, and have had an extension of the project runtime from 36 to 45 months because of the Corona pandemic and many activities that we couldn't do when we started the project. Altogether, we are 13 participants coming from 11 different countries. You can see here on the map the distribution of the partners. One can basically say that more or less the half of the project partners comes from Europe, or a little more than the half, and then the rest comes from our 5 target countries, where in each of the target countries we have one project partner. What were, let's say, our general aims in the project? As we are a European-funded project, our one main aim is to support the European hydropower industry by providing tools that should facilitate and consult our target regions with the European know-how and expertise, and in the end, it should enable more technology export for European companies. But at the same time, we also like to stimulate the energy transition in developing and emerging countries, because we think that small hydropower is basically an activity that should be considered when it's about the energy transition. Not only in our target countries, but also in Europe. I think there is still discussion ongoing, a needed one. Here are the objectives that we had according to our proposal. We had mapping activities planned to map the European hydropower industry, then going, let's say, into the potentials, mapping more than 2,000 potential hydropower sites, and also gather information that is available about the stakeholders in the target countries. Furthermore, for all our target countries, we have prepared framework analysis. We carried out capacity building activities. We have elaborated and after assessments 15 case studies that shall lead actually in the end to 5 memorandums of understanding. Currently my information is that more or less we are good with 3, I think, where we can say that a memorandum of understanding can be achieved. Of course, I'm eager to know if anybody of the study tour participants had talks with one company where he said it could be more than just a normal business talk. Maybe we can sign a first agreement paper. If so, please inform us. As we provide an online platform providing information and also enabling the contacts. Then we had business-to-business workshops. They were planned in Colombia, Uganda, and then here today we have, let's say, a small form of these B2B meetings outside, and of course, whenever you want to speak and the network use that. We had it in Colombia, and then the one in Uganda we had to organize in Austria at a conference, let's say due to the runtime of the project. And of course, the reason why so many international guests are here is the study tour in Europe. This is the structure of HYPOSO. It's a classical one, where basically interesting are from work package 2 to work package 6. The industry cooperation, then we have 3 work packages where the target countries have been heavily involved in the framework analysis and research needs work package, then capacity building, and then the case studies. And of course, the market uptake of the European hydropower technologies, that was the reason why you have been on the tour together. We also like to achieve an impact in numbers. And with HYPOSO, we had the goal that we can trigger for installed megawatts altogether of 90 megawatts. You can see here the numbers that we plan for each of our target countries. And according to the pre-feasibility studies, to the results of the pre-feasibility studies, we are way over these 90 megawatts. Which would mean then, of course, in addition that if these projects would be implemented, we would contribute to a higher amount of additional European investment than we have planned during the proposal, which was then 136 million euros. Further impact that we planned was in our target countries regarding the electrification rate. Basically, one can say that in our African target countries, we looked to tackle this on the urban and rural level. In Bolivia, for example, it's more focused on the rural electrification, where small hydro could be helpful. And in Colombia and in Ecuador, it is actually, or it was planned then, to tackle the use still of the fossil energies, getting rid of the rest of the coal in Colombia or of the petrol in Ecuador. And of course, with our activities, we like to develop or bring on track more hydropower experts. And finally, once these projects or potential sites will be developed, then we also like to contribute to more local jobs. Just for your information, many of you maybe don't know the direct contact, or probably yes they do. So in Bolivia, we work together with the Universidad Mayor de San Simón. In Colombia, with Centro Latinoamericano para la Pequeña Hidroeléctrica. And in Ecuador, with the Escuela Politécnica Nacional. You see all the contacts here, but if you have not been in contact, maybe it's for the European partners here more interesting, who could be a contact point if they want to find out more about HYPOSO in these target countries. In Africa, we have 2, we can also say partner countries. In Cameroon, we work together with Solar Hydrowatt. Joseph was also on the tour. And in Uganda, we work together with the Hydropower Association of Uganda Limited. And there we have Mr. Dan Marlon Nabutsabe here present, who planned to participate at the study tour, but finally, I think for fitness reason we call it, it was not possible. Get well soon, of course. Thank you. Then we just get into the implementation of the objectives. Here, I just speak a little bit about the mapping activities and the online platform. Well, here you see the starting point of the HYPOSO platform. If you're not yet registered, I encourage every stakeholder that is present here to register for the platform. You have not only the possibility to put there for free your company information, you also have access to the HYPOSO map. where we will hear more soon about this very nice tool. Yeah, the tool should be used as an interactive connection tool. We don't track anybody, we just provide it, and what you make out of it is, of course, then the question that goes only to the sector. Further on, we are already now in so-called work package 4, which is about the capacity building courses. I won't speak a lot about it, but just here you see that we had them in South America, in Bolivia, in Ecuador. You see there once, let's say, the course itself, and then you see how happy participants have received their certificates after finishing the capacity building courses. For Uganda and Cameroon, it was the same. In Uganda, actually, the certification handover, that was the last activity, I think, of the capacity building courses during the framework condition workshop that happened in Uganda in the mid of March. Furthermore, we had project developer workshops. You can see here on the pictures that these had to be organized in an online form. That was due to the corona pandemic. We did that, but the more interesting part that was then also used for the studies were then the excursions to assess then the potential hydropower sites. That started first in I don't want to speak now something wrong. First site visits were in Uganda, yes, and then in Cameroon, and then last summer there was a tour over 3 countries, from Bolivia to Ecuador and then to Colombia, where in each of these countries also 3 sites, 3 promising sites have been visited and assessed. Furthermore, we have had very interesting discussions during the framework condition workshops. They were actually held in all countries as well. And you see here just some images. You will get more information from Eva, who was organizing these workshops. Of course, we also did these in Latin America as well. One can see on the photos, which is interesting, that 2 of these workshops were still happening during the pandemic high times, where people wore masks, etc. And the last one, that was then last day of February, where we were in Colombia, and it seemed that we are above that, luckily. Yeah, and just a little bit more about the activities. What also is a very useful thing, and you find it outside on the table, are our handbooks. They are actually giving information about the latest European technology, state of the art. And we have them in English, Spanish, and French. And the very last HYPOSO activities have been the study tour, where you have participated, and then this very final event. And at the end, we will also have the possibility to see the premiere of a video that was shot especially for that video. And with that, in a nutshell, I think that's through the whole HYPOSO project. Thanks a lot. And of course, if you haven't registered yet for the newsletter, it's very easy, just 1 click. Yeah, if let's say you will get more information about all the work packages that I just maybe showed some pictures in detail by the colleagues that will follow with the presentations. But for now, I think I need to change system, because we will have now the keynote speech from Hélène Gray, who is a Deputy Director, Clean Planet, and Head of Unit Clean Energy Transition at DG Research and Innovation from the European Commission. So this is now a live operation. We will see if it works.
Yes, thank you very much. So good afternoon to everybody, and I'm sorry not to be present physically. I would have loved it, especially in this nice city. So let's go directly. You have my name and my titles. No need to go on. And I would like to alert that these slides are, you could have them after all, so no need to take a picture or to make too many notes. You could have the information. Next slide, please. I would like to recap that the next slide, please. The European Commission is working under the European Green Deal, which has many legs developing along the mandate of this Commission. We begin, of course, with the overall idea on the European Green Deal, including the Fit for 55 package, which accelerated the process. Then, following the war in Ukraine and the tension on the energy market, we delivered on REPowerEU. And recently on the revision of the EU electricity market design, and this was supported by the taxonomy. You have here all the different bits and pieces, puzzles of the Green Deal. Next, please. An important part of what we do is about sustainability. In the EU, we are very often leaders in the world on sustainability policies because we really care on protecting the planet. So if you see the 4 pillars on the sustainability policy, we have climate and energy, environment, investment, and sustainable finance. But I would like to focus on climate and energy. And if you put them together, it's because energy is the blood of the economy. Energy, whether it's production of energy, transport, distribution, storage, or applications, use of energy, it's more than 70-75% of the impact on climate and on the impact on pollution. So it's very, very important that we look at energy in an overall approach. Next, please. Yes. So what we do now, and why do we work globally? Because energy is a global challenge. But sustainability is also a global challenge. If you see that, for instance, the EU is representing only less than 12% of the overall emissions, despite being quite populated, even after the Brexit, by the way, that was a joke, just to be less technical. But if you look at that, we are a bit front runners on that. But we know that we need to work globally. We need to work with the other parts of the world on the planet resources and on the climate mitigation. Because what we do in any part of the world is impacting in another part of the world. And we bear a responsibility, all of us. So if we look on the cooperation with African Union, for instance, on climate change and sustainable energy partnership, of course, the idea is, or the global objective is to replace fossil fuel by renewable energy. And it is also, of course, seeing the increase in the demand of energy to allow for this demand to be covered in priority by renewable energy with a condition which is absolutely critical, is that this renewable energy will be affordable. It will be sustainable and it will be also affordable. And this includes all renewable energy sources, meaning also hydro. We have launched the Renewable Project, which is not really a project, it's more a program inside the program of research and innovation. You see here the detail, and it is taking off very nicely. So I'm very happy to recap about that and say that we believe in that, and we believe with this approach on doing joint programs. Now, with a nuance, which is that in the EU system, we have a program for research and innovation, and we have a program for development. They can work together, but our approach is on research and innovation. Next, please. So if I go now to the hydropower itself, and first beginning to Europe, you see that hydropower was in a way one of the first renewable energy. Actually one, because in the Middle Age, Europe was covered with windmills and with water mills. But now, in the last century, we developed a lot of hydropower. So it's not an energy which has a big potential still in Europe. It does have a potential, but not that big. We have been very good in using this also for storage and for managing the freshwater flows. But what is important is that we have some very good approaches, some very good assets in hydropower, and especially in efficiency and sustainability of all the technologies for hydropower, whether it is for building it or for maintaining it. So what we do in hydropower in Europe is to maintain the European hydropower research and the value chains, and to cooperate on sustainable hydropower with the rest of the world. Next, please. If I look now on the global hydropower, that's a lot of drawings in that slide. We can see, for instance, and it looks absolutely normal, that the share of hydropower in electricity generation is stable, but it is decreasing in the share of the part of hydropower of renewable energy at all in electricity. However, there is still a big need for hydropower, and I would like to pass the message that we need all renewable energies. We cannot afford just to go to one priority. We need a mix. And the mix should be based on most efficient at one place. And the most efficient to be mixed also with other types of renewable energy. So when I hear we will do only solar, we will do only wind, this is not economically efficient. We need to build on all energies and assess according to the availability of the resources and to the efficiency of the extracting, producing, transporting and storing these resources. If we look now to the exports, you see that the EU is having a very big share because we are still leaders in most of the technologies for hydropower, which I'm proud to say, but our approach is to help other parts of the world to benefit from that. And if you look also on research, it means that we are still front leaders in EU on the research on hydropower. Next, please. So what can we do? What can we offer worldwide? We have a long experience. In a way, the mistakes in using or developing hydropower, we are made in the EU, and we can offer something which is now mature and which is adult, I would say. Not only mature, but adult. All the kindness diseases, we have faced them. So it's something reassuring for an investor in the other parts of the world. When you look at the forecast, we have really a substantial forecast for needs of hydropower. What we are very keen on, and this is not on the slide, but this is really corresponding to the EU values, is that we should absolutely couple the development of hydropower with the management of fresh water. It is so important in a moment where we see that the access to fresh water is becoming a critical issue already now and also for the next decade. So it's not only climate, it's also planet resources, but also in planet resources, the watering, the fresh water. You have here some detailed forecasts, and I think they are very encouraging. Next, please. At the international level, we are not, of course, the only actors. We have the International Energy Agency, and we contribute very strongly to that. And you see, for instance, that the IEA has developed a lot of what we call annex, but they are specific works on specific domains. Next, please. Nice drawing to speak about Horizon Europe. Next, please. So Horizon Europe has a vision. And first of all, the vision is embedded. It embedded, the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. And especially the goal of access to energy and a clean and affordable energy for all. And we in the EU, we are very keen on that, and we have put this in our vision for the research and innovation. So tackling climate change, yes, but also helping the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and that includes not only the access, but also the resources of the planet. Protecting the environment, but also stopping tapping too much into the resources. Facilitate collaboration and disseminate. So we have also a role to disseminate knowledge, and that's very important for research and innovation because it goes global. And last, of course, we need that for creating jobs, but also for helping people to switch from, let's say, fossil fuel industry jobs to new energy jobs. And for that, we have the European Research Area, which is mainly dealing with cross-cutting domains. Next, please. So that will be a little bit my last slide. To recap what we do for hydropower in Horizon Europe, and especially in Cluster 5. You have a list of projects which are, of course, important. Obviously, this is not a lot. If you see the amount of money, you could well say, well, not a lot. Why don't you pour more water? More money. It's also because we are not only paying, we are also paving the way. We are showing where we think that we should go. And very often people outside, they pay more attention to the direction than to the real amount. We are also doing things that the others don't do. So we are trying to pave the way, do additional things that no one will do, and develop in a way cooperation which will lead to better results than if somebody will do it alone. And that means that cooperation between countries is very important, especially at international level, because rivers, they don't look at borders, usually. And the ocean, the same in one coast or in another one. So the problem is global, the resource is global, and we need to go global, which explains, by the way, that we did a program with the African Union and not with every specific country, and that we are very keen on having a very open and integrated approach. And this open and integrated approach should go in three directions, and that will be a little bit my conclusion. The first one is between the national programs and the European programs. The second is also to have an integrated approach across the sources of renewable energy. We need all of them, as I said. And the third one will be to be in synergy with deployment, because we also pave the way for future investment to ensure that the investment will be done according to the best basis, that we provide proper, enlightened, exact, accurate evidences for investors. And with these words, I would reiterate that I'm very happy that you invited the Commission to speak here, and I would like to thank you very much for your attention and wishing you a nice weekend.
Thanks a lot, Hélène. Very interesting speech and insights on the European perspective on the hydro sector. I think we still have the time. If there are any questions, would you be open to receive some?
I still a few moments, yes. I have another meeting coming, but you can spare 10 minutes, no problem.
Okay, so if there are any questions you want to ask directly to the let's say, European Commission, so a representative of the European Commission, take a heart and speak out. But I see you have convinced them, and don't seem to be any questions. Yes. So if I can see you now, but you can see the crowd, and yeah, well, then it's with the two camera systems. If I'm not the one who is the technician here, that was for me a challenge, I must confess. But it was very interesting. Thanks a lot from my side. And of course, then also a very nice weekend for you. And all the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that was the hybrid part of the event, and we will now go back to the part that we know more of, that is just being there in person. We have, after these words coming directly from the heart of Europe, from Brussels, we now have the next speech that will be given by Dick Hendrich from ERF, project partner responsible for Work Package 2. And this presentation is called Opportunities for the European Small Hydropower Sector under the European Green Deal. Dirk, floor is yours.
Great, thank you. I hope there should be also some other information in that we will, to which we come back later, also in the panel discussion about the role of small hydropower. Yeah, let me go quickly. And first of all, let me quickly introduce the European Renewable Energies Federation, and I mean here in particular the small hydropower chapter. As you can see here, we have most of our members, or our members are coming from all most important hydropower countries from Europe, and basically, as we are only a very small secretariat, we focus our capacity specifically on policy work, and here the most important ones, at least for the European small hydropower sector, are the so-called CIS process. This is a kind of like implementation process with regard to the Water Framework Directive, which is like very important for hydropower projects. But of course also specifically over the last years on EU energy policies, to which we will come to that in the next slides. Another part that we do is this, as we have been involved in the HYPOSO project, is also that we try to promote the sector, but I mean also cooperation between Europe and other continents. We are doing this not only since HYPOSO, we did this already before, at the time under the RECP program, specifically for Africa, and also prior to that there were several international initiatives on this topic. To give you a quick idea specifically on the small hydropower sector, how it is here within Europe or within the 27 EU member states, what we did is this, that we made a kind of like, we requested our members to send us the data, and if you're going to apply, this is at least for Europe, a kind of like general characteristics of 10 megawatt as small hydropower. There should be around 22,000 plants with around 4,500 enterprises, mostly family-based or small, medium-sized enterprises that are producing around 13 or electricity for around 13 million households, which is, if you're going to see it in the total energy mix, still around something like 6.7. These figures are quite stable over the last couple of years. And we will see now how the specific development potential, how it will be tapped into it. As you may know, is we have on our website a database which is called Restore Hydro, and here you see already a kind of like an idea of abundant hydropower plant, but I mean also in the kind of other natural structures where you could put in the turbines. I would also like to use here the possibilities to the latest trends that are coming now, specifically quite high on the European agenda. And these are kinetic turbines, very low head turbines. And as you may know, this is of course the Netherlands are quite leading here. If you look at the province of Gelderland, for example, and also hidden hydro is something that the European Commission looks into it more and more. So there are several possibilities that are there. The question is, will the political framework in place, yes or no? If you're going to look on latest hydropower development in Europe, you see that this is mostly focused on a number of countries. Here what you have is in general that you have kind of like new power plants in Austria, France, Italy, whereas like for example Spain and Portugal are mostly refurbishment. It needs to be highlighted that this is mostly large hydropower with refurbishment. You see that in particular in the small hydropower part is sort of like steadily growing, but at a very low rate. What is very important is that here, at least until 2030, the European Commission is planning here always in decades. Like one of the targets is to have a significant increase in renewable energy throughout the EU member states, and for that member states are requested to draft so-called National Energy and Climate Plans, NECPs, and you see here that logically it's very much dominated by solar and wind. You have some countries where biomass plays also a very important role. And then you see here on the upper left side, specifically marked in dark blue, the countries that are explicitly planning with adding additional hydropower in here. And you see that there are unfortunately many countries who are not planning with their capacity that there is. But I mean on the other side, you see that here they play a role. As I said, for example, refurbishment is certainly playing one of the points, and we will come to the NECPs at a later stage because they are currently the second drafts that are developed. Now, if we're going to look at small hydropower in the European energy system, is we see that the system is changing. You see that in particular renewables are coming in much stronger. You see a shift, and the overall idea is to move from a kind of like fossil-based, centralized energy system towards a renewable and energy efficiency-based energy system. And I mean, of course, here in this case, small hydropower, and you know this certainly better than I do, have quite a lot of fantastic characteristic advantages and opportunities to offer. Of course, it's not only about electricity production, but I mean, in particular, what is now the keywords that we are using more and more when talking to politicians is that stability, the flexible generation of small hydropower, and also storage capacity, storage possibilities are the key issues that are specifically needed for this kind of like new European energy system. Something that we would like to highlight here is this, there's a study that had been carried out by a German university that just simply said by leaving small hydropower plants in the system, you see that you can save grid enhancement costs for up to €1 billion only for Germany alone, simply to have the grids stable. And there is another study from France that comes to a very similar result. But in particular, when you see how specifically small hydropower plants can enable so much flexibility that specifically let's say the wind and solar as volatile producers can come into the energy system much easier. As mentioned before, security of supply is of course also very crucial, and as we had discussed already here this morning, the multi-purpose functions are becoming now also more and more increasing, or have now a higher increased importance when we talk about small hydropower plants. This here is just to give you an idea. We are now at nearly the end of the legislation period in Brussels, meaning that the current Commission is working still until May next year. After that, there will be a new Commission coming in. And I mean, you see here that this is the kind of like program that the current Commission in 5 years pushed through. It was quite a lot of different files, specifically here on energy files, but what I want to say here is this, that you see that this is an endeavor to completely transform European societies into sustainable ones. It is not only about decarbonization, but it is also about environmental protection, about circular economy, about kind of like sustainable agriculture, that all goes hand in hand. Of course, you see the idea is that also these kind of programs are necessarily financed. This is also given, and here specifically the EU hopes that with this kind of change to have a kind of like, or to maintain or gain, depending on how you see it, a kind of like a global leadership, but I mean in particular to have enough jobs, to create enough jobs during this energy system transformation, in particular. And then what you see here around is basically just the impact on all the policy files that are then just dealing with water. And I mean, as I said, we are now nearly at the end, where we have still 1 year to go until the end of the legislation period, but it's pretty sort of like advanced already. When it comes to EU legislation that is absolutely crucial for small hydropower, what we have is this, for this year in particular, we have the Renewable Energy Directive and the Repower Plan. The revision of the electricity market design, there are some developments with regard to the Water Framework Directive, and of course the Nature Restoration Regulation, that will all have an impact on how the sector will be able to develop. Now, what I can see is that here, specifically Water Framework Directive and Nature Restoration Regulation, this is in particular about the proposal to create 25,000 kilometers of so-called free-flowing rivers. From what we have seen here from the European Commission, it is not as bad as it looks, specifically for the small hydropower sector, but there are currently quite some positive developments. When it comes to electricity market design, here it is in particular now the chance to bring in some of the old ideas, in particular to reward small hydropower plants for all different kind of energy services that it can, or energy system services that it can provide. And we're going to look at the Renewable Energy Directive that has been now finalized. The negotiation has been finalized by the end of March. We could sort of like anchor here quite some successes in. The first one is that we have the introduction of the legal principle of so-called overriding public interest, meaning that the moment you're going to create a small hydropower plant, this is kind of like more important than, for example, certain environmental concerns. The next thing is that we were also able to reject quite a number of amendments that were meant sort of like to slow down or against the small hydropower sector. They are also not there anymore. And in particular, what we have done now is that after this victory, we also mentioned, or sort of like got it now in the proposal, that based on this, the nature legislation needs to be amended in this respect, meaning that in, for example, the Water Framework Directive, you have now this principle of overriding public interest and the environmental issues for small hydropower, that this needs to be amended in the respective nature legislation. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to skip this here, and this here is now in particular the chance at national level to promote small hydropower development. As I mentioned, these national energy and climate plans are currently developed here by national governments. The first drafts should be out roughly by summertime. Then afterwards, there is an assessment by the European Commission, and we have sort of like traditionally helped the European Commission in assessing these first drafts. Like for example, at the last time, what happened was that many times the European Commission takes our ideas on how to improve these plans into account. And we saw that then it is then also trickled down into national level, where they then sort of like take over the requests from the European Commission. So this is something that we're going to do this year as well. We see already here with our members that they are quite active in pushing, in particular, small hydropower and its benefits into these national energy and climate plans by, for example, asking concrete goals for 2030, etc. What we see already now is the impact of the kind of like new regulatory framework on small hydropower. One thing is for sure that, for example, when it comes to environmental measures, there will be a continuation of upgrading and refurbishment. But I mean, in particular, now with the Renewable Energy Directive, the huge breakthrough is that administrative and permitting procedures will be much easier and specifically much faster. You see this already in kind of like emergency regulation that is currently in place and who has already like similar provisions written in. And now let's see if actually the local, respectively national authorities are able to follow up on this. That they have maximum 1, respectively 2 years to allow these new permits and concessions. 1 minute, okay. Right, then afterwards, wait a minute, this is what I'm going to go. Yes, here just to tell you, we are working here a little bit on a entente cordiale between the energy and environmental actors that goes somehow good, somehow bad. Let's see a little bit how it is, but I mean, we see that we can have at least the resistance of environmental NGOs, sort of like that they give it up, but that we come to good terms with them. There are several initiatives, not only from us, but also from other hydropower players in Brussels that are currently ongoing. This here is just a summary slide here about what in particular European but also national decision makers can do to support the development of the small hydropower sector. This is in particular important when it comes to the development of national energy and climate plans. And my final slide is here. There is a new hydropower project where we also participate. It is called HYPOSO Hydropower Project. For the first time, there will be a kind of like HYPOSO, which is a kind of like advisory working group to the European Commission that collects here all different kind of topics on hydropower. ERIF is in particular there to collect the positions and information from the small hydropower sector. Even it is a European project, it is open also for experts from outside, so therefore have a look and feel free to register. What you see here is that in a previous project, Hydropower Europe, where we also have been partner, you have the research and innovation agenda and also the strategic industry roadmap being developed that is now further developed, respectively being implemented. And I mean, as Hélène said, is that several of these proposals that we had put forward at that time, actually years ago, have been now made it to the calls that are currently ongoing and that are now running. Yeah, so much for this, and any kind of questions is fire away.
Thanks a lot. and of our project partner here. Are they doing enough?
One question over
Yes,
there.
there is one question. Please.
Thank you, Dick and Ingo. Just like we mentioned, I think I've been paying a lot of attention, and there is, you've aroused a lot of my interest. I was just been wondering under which kind of framework, for example, because we're now here for the sake of the HYPOSO project. We're all partners under the HYPOSO project. But for example, if individual partner members under HYPOSO, for example, now wanted to have a unilateral arrangement or maybe a bilateral, not necessarily for HYPOSO, but for example, Hydropower Association of Uganda vis-a-vis the European Renewable Energy Federation on one of the good items, areas that you've mentioned. Is that a way, is there a possibility that we can explore that kind of partnership?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. We would be interested in, I think, starting on something like that.
No, that's more than possible, and I mean we had this already here in the past,
Sure.
and it's kind of like mutual support. And I mean in particular also we have discussed over lunch some initiatives to do this. This is yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think we will explore those possibilities.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot again, Dirk. Next speech will be about a very, very interesting tool that has been developed within the project, the HYPOSO map. We have the colleagues, 3 colleagues from Lithuania here who worked intensively on this task. Petras Kunis from project partner Vytautas Magnus University will give us the speech. I will just put it. Okay, Petras, yours.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues, dear ladies and gentlemen. My name is Petras Kunis. I'm coming from Lithuania. The title is shown over there. This my presentation was recorded with friends or colleagues of mine, Linas and Gitanas, who are sitting in front of me. So let's go. This is a short overview of my presentation. It will consist of 2 parts, presentation part report, and at the end I will show a small video. Just I start with introduction. Everybody knows that assessment of small hydro sites for development represents a high proportion of project costs. So, moreover, the sites are located in remote areas with limited access for engineering teams. So, this assessment also has been constrained by lack of information on hydrology, topography, hydropower potential, especially in target countries. So, tools are needed to help in assessing small hydropower sites. One of the crucial tools is GIS, Geographical Information System. So a number of countries already developed so-called interactive web-based maps. For instance, in USA, in Europe and other countries. So we benefited their experience in order to carry out our atlas. Our objectives was main objective to develop a web-based map or interactive hydropower atlas in selected countries. Specific objectives were as follows: to collect topographic, hydrographic, hydrologic, environmental data in geospatial format, to create digital elevation model, to model stream-rich hydropower potential, and identified more than 2,500 potential sites with their key data sets, and published, collected, and modeled geospatial data onto open access web-based map platform. Materials and methods. So we used open source GeoServer software. So actually our map consists of more than 20 layers, sub-layers, and they can be viewed on the map viewer. It is available in English, French, and Spanish, and accessible at HYPOSO platform. Actually. This picture shows thematic layers, the main group, the base maps, background infrastructure, operational hydropower plants, climate hydrology, hydropower resources. So, to model hydropower resources, we use so-called shuttle radar topographic mission to create digital elevation model. So we produced this so-called digital elevation model. This picture shows how we split rivers into segments, how we used ArcGIS Pro tool, which we developed, which we completed all the procedures, and how we calculated power capacity depending on, of course, it's the very, very known formula, it's discharge and herd. Our crucial task was to identify more than 2,000 potential hydropower sites. And for that, we used GIS modeling. This is shown Uganda map. So we used to develop or to find these sites. So we accounted for a number of criteria like proximity analysis, grid, settlements, environmental attributes, etc. Our map also takes into account climate change projection. Everybody knows that climate changes impact hydropower resources, and this impact was taken indirectly by decrease or increase precipitation. Everybody knows that there is close relationship between precipitation and runoff of river stream generation. Therefore, any change in precipitation level can be reflected in hydropower potential. We did not model climate change. We simply took data from this climate change knowledge portal. So we benefited simply their knowledge. This slide shows metadata, information how to use our map viewer. This is a kind of small tutorial how to manipulate it. I would like to say that our atlas will be only a kind of discovery automatically. It enables users to freely obtain approximate information to guide them the decision making around the likelihood of site development. Our estimates model or derived will not represent actual numbers for engineering calculations for the design. So spatial and other related inaccuracies in this assessment cannot be entirely avoided due to nature of the input of geospatial data. To be open, our class is not magic tool. It's not magic tool. Everything should be done on the field, but not from the screen. We did everything from the screen. We never visited these sites. Now I'm coming to our results, that some images, pictures that you can see front page of the HYPOSO web map viewer, generate a small catchment, a small 71 square kilometers catchment boundary is shown in, I think it's in Colombia. This next picture shows river flows, river basins or hydrographic zones, which are different according to countries, aging stations or hydrometric stations, operational hydropower plant, for instance here on left in Bolivia, theoretical potential of river ridge with a pop-up providing if description, and crucial point, we had target to identify more than 2,500 potential sites, so our target was achieved with sites' basic features like site type, address, approximate capacity, environmental sensitivity, and the opportunities for developments. Now I continue with images of the HYPOSO map. On the left, potential hydropower sites in Bolivia with pop-up providing brief description. This is data taken from this class. We downloaded this data are freely available, and we produced these images for Uganda to characterize potential hydropower sites, with on the left with distribution density of capacities. On the left we have a specific runoff map, digital specific runoff map to calculate river flow. On the right, total hydropower potential of the river basins that in Uganda. Now I'm coming to the last part, concluding remarks. So our web-based map, which was based on GIS, can be only a kind of discovery, identifying sites automatically, but this estimates modeled or derived will not represent actual numbers for engineering design. Minor refinements are still needed. I recognize text editing, proofreading, copyright revisions, even bugs. So please do not download our data until next Friday. After next Friday, everything will be clear. So we have to recognize this is our fault. So this map is available on the website. Now Ingo, it should launch just for 4 minutes our video. This is offline video, not online, in order to save our time. It is no voice.
No voice?
No voice.
Ah, okay.
That's fine.
It is not shown.
It's not shown.
Why is it not shown? Nino, we have... Again, now we see here, if everybody comes here, we have a nice, actually animated version, but now we could have to fix it and make it the other way around.
That was him just.
I can try.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. But that is not from the beginning. Leave it here. We'll leave it here, and then we will start again.
Yes, so just go with the slider.
Right. There.
You just move the slider.
Like this?
Yes.
Okay, so now here comes the animation.
Yes, that's an animation. That's in Spanish. You can see that's projection of climate of precipitation. Next, in French, potentiel hydroelectrique, capacité potentielle de transon. Next, group climate and hydrology. For instance, we're opening the hydrometric station, gauging station with metadata, a lot of metadata from Bolivia, Colombia, describing gauging stations. Cameroon, Uganda, what we collected during last four years. Now, stream order according to the Strackler system, American Strackler system, that's in Ecuador with potential hydropower plants. Dots show potential hydropower plants with pop-ups. That's expected capacity, coordinates, everything is here, but needs to be corrected a bit with language, of course. So we have potential sites. So we put this transmission grid in Ecuador, and we can measure distance from the line. That's shown. You don't need to have a GIS software. Everything is here. That's line measurement, like simple Google map. Stream order, climate zones, that's contextual information. Precipitation, this is contextual information, that's general information, that's not for designing purposes, but shown with potential hydropower plants, mean annual flow. Still, we have rivers, we have capacities, environmental sensitivity, exploited, yes or not, even small catchments, subbassins, areas of small catchments, subbassins. That's this again stream order. That's again potential hydropower. River basins. That's so-called hydrologic units. For instance, in Colombia, hydrographic areas, hydrographic zones, hydrographic subzones. That's different in every country. We have all characteristics. It's not our data. We got from hydrologic services, from hydrological institutions. So that's climate change projection of precipitation. So that's reduction below 4% and increase above 16%. That's taken from climate change portal. So that's all. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Petra, for showing this nice tool. Actually, I see there is already one question at least.
Thanks for the presentation, very nice. Did you actually validate it by going to the field in some instances?
That's a very good question. So we try to validate. Actually, we are publishing paper in peer-reviewed journal, Water, on Ugandan hydropower resources. So, and this will be validated by independent reviewers. But as in the morning Bernard told, hydrology is very poor in some countries. Hydrology data. So what we can say, hydrology is a problem. Main problem, hydrology. Much better in Colombia, Ecuador, but in African countries, it's completely poor.
Thanks.
Yes, thinking about Colombia and the global we working there for sure have access to suitable information from the radiological point of view because there are a lot of records, but always we have to make a proper cleaning of the data as in the time technology has changed, land uses have changed, and so on. And I guess that such kind of cleaning process that make much more accurate the information is not possible considering the amount of information that you are processing. Somehow there is any kind of accuracy factor or something that somehow indicates in the information that you are providing how big can be the error in the measurement or the estimation of the power?
Yes, that's very good question for you. But we could not, we were dealing with 5 countries with a lot of information. Inaccuracies, very huge. Uncertainties, first of all, climate change. We used historical data. Historical data which for measurements made in the 70s or 60s and even 50s. So we were not able. But normally we need to present some our accuracies to what are changes. First, the second, to calculate hydropower potential, we use only mean annual flow, long-term annual flow. We did not use daily flows, you know. To be accurate, you need to construct flow duration curves, you know, flow duration curve. But instead of that, we use mean annual flow. That's our class is not accurate. First of all, as I told you about shuttle radar topographic mission, you know, accuracy, its accuracy is 100 meters, and in height accuracy 10 meters, from 4 to 10 meters, our digital elevation model. And then hydrology, that's approximation.
I'm just saying that as the tool, it's available for all kind of users, not necessarily expert users.
Yes.
Not the proper one.
That's a kind of guide. It's a type of guide
that for sure needs to make the user, to provide the user sufficient awareness about the uncertainties, at least to read it in a very critical way.
I completely agree.
So, there's another question?
It's just very short. Do you include any head information or not at all?
Head information?
In this tool?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Besides, so we provided more than 2,000 sites with concise information.
Okay.
River flow, herd, and power capacity.
And what is
that's enough.
What is the threshold of the head? From which head?
We heard that's from 5 meters up to 1 kilometer. It depends on locality.
Thank you.
Just an important point that I want to make on this, that geographical surveys are specific to geographics. They're not specific to infrastructure. So in Europe, it's very common that you have small hydropower plants that have been underutilized. There's no civil drawings at all. So a GIS will not get you that data for a site. Meaning, you know, like the specifics of the draft tube, you know, that's additional work. I just want to separate the two between geographic and civil study.
Yes, you are right. What we did everything from the screen. from the screen, from the computer screen, using GIS, using available freely information. Of course, not freely. Some information, the logical data we bought, so we are obliged to buy.
So maybe one can name it an inspirational tool for the stakeholders, because of course they must finally go to the field, look how is the situation. But I mean, just to have the first overview, this is a very handy instrument. Yes.
But what was the criteria in terms of? I guess that you're searching for the length of the paint stock against the head of the project. Was there any criteria, specific criteria for you to select the point that you want?
Main criteria was energy intensive stream reaches. So energy intensive stream reaches.
Okay.
Main criteria power capacity. The main criteria for us.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw from Cameroon, you talked about 500 seats and plus. You know that in 2018, with the support of the European Union, we identified 260 small state hydropower. And I want to know the 500, they are including all the seats or just the small hydro?
So it's about the sites that were, let's say, put for Cameroon.
For Cameroon. Yeah. By the way, in Cameroon, we found some 2,000 sites. 2,000 actually, 2,000 sites, and we needed to rank them. What were ranked criteria? But we used proximity analysis, settlements, environmental protected areas, then high intensity river beaches, and of course grid. We have a transmission grid. It was digitalized, but it was not very much precise. So we needed grid. So the transmission grid is presented in our atlas, but it's not accurate. Not accurate.
Excuse me, because I think he really wants to know if the selected sites, the final list of the sites includes the existing one. You remember at the beginning we collected every existing data.
And you had the existing ones, or the operating ones, or the abandoned
No,
ones?
the identified ones. The ones which were identified before. Are they?
They are included.
So our database contains expert proposed sites. If you remember yourself, we checked them, and in addition, we presented new sites by GIS model sites. You offered some 200 sites, but not all fitted our needs. We screened out.
My question is because you have the fourth or third potential of hydro in Africa, so you have a site from up to 3,000 megawatts. So I want to know, can we define the renewable energy in Cameroon up to 5 megawatts?
We collected sites, our limit was 20 megawatts, but small hydro limit in Cameroon is 10 megawatts. But we collected up to 20 megawatts.
Can you also put the capacity lower? Can you block on
10 megawatts and 20 megawatts. Yes, up to 20 megawatts in Cameroon.
But you cannot filter, if you only look for, let's say, up to 5 megawatts, can you do that or not?
That contains 5 megawatt, 1 megawatt. But the limit 20 megawatts. But small hydro limit, small hydro power limit in Cameroon is 10 megawatt, if I'm not wrong. Yes?
No, in the renewable it's 5 megawatts.
5 megawatt, but it's small hydro, 10 megawatts.
Excuse me, I should bring some precision, because actually the definition, according to the law, does not match the scientific definition. They say, according to the law, they say anything below 5 megawatt is renewable, which is a little bit crazy.
Yes, we also have from Ecuador one comment.
What's the resolution of the screen that you use, like, to calculate the hydropower potential? You know, the head, you need to calculate the head. What was the resolution of the cell in the raster?
It's 1 in 12,000. I think the radar topographic mission,
So
it's one.
we have digital elevation model, also called digital map. Our rivers were split, segmented by 2 kilometers. 2 kilometers, and then from intake, from tributary to tributary. The rivers, can you explain?
I think that he was asking about the resolution of the digital terrain model that they were using. So
Yes. The raster.
the raster resolution of the
DR7, so it's like 90 by 90 meters, so that we...
90 by 90 meters, yes, of course. But vertical resolution was not sufficient. It's, in mountain regions it's 5 meters, but then in other regions it might reach up to 10 meters, and more.
But that's accuracy, not resolution. Resolution is 90 by 90, and we're talking about accuracy.
The accuracy.
Okay.
Thank you. It's not a question, just to thank very much HYPOSO for that tool. It's very important for government to plan every power plant in our country. So for Cameroon, I would like to know if you plan to present it to the government, because it's a very important tool for making decisions in the small hydropower.
That's right. I completely agree with you.
Very nice, actually. What an honor, Petras.
Yeah.
We have one, maybe we make it the last question and then we have a coffee break.
No, the clarification was asking whether this fantastic program will be presented to governments for ease and facilitation of implementation. For example,
it is an open tool.
It's available at the HYPOSO Project website.
Currently,
you can use
access
it
by yes.
even now. No. Even now. Just actually go to the site
Just a few
and to open.
Excuse me, they want we people to present the result officially to invite
So
the
the makers,
stakeholders,
the makers
invite
will say, "Here it is."
stakeholders and tell them what we have done so far. This is very important for them because it is something they did not have before HYPOSO. I think we can arrange a kind of official dissemination. I don't know how we can call it, but I think there's an action to undertake.
As far as I know, we should present it in the seminars.
Yes.
In Cameroon.
There was an interest, but well, I suppose that further perhaps a reminder or invitation would be quite okay. Information about the project that it came to the end, and these are the results. Please use them.
Yes, actually, I think this is an issue where we need to have a follow-up, and it's nice actually. So I think you're from Cameroon, but the colleague is from Uganda.
Yes.
So we have both target countries that say they have interest in let's say, bringing that more into their countries, which is, I think, also
they can give
nice.
it their addresses.
Yes, of course. We will sort out how we make that. Very good.
I think the EUD will be very happy to sustain it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and there are also the European Commission, they are suggesting kind of, let's say, carriers where you can keep them, such project results for a longer time alive. And we also have the discussion if we can put the, let's say, the results in a longer lasting other initiative for hydropower. So we'll see, the last decision has not been made, but we are thinking about that. And of course, if it will remain, then it is a useful tool that can be used not only in Cameroon and Uganda, but if, let's say, data will be provided, then it can be an initiative for other countries as well. Petras, thanks a lot. I say now everybody needs a coffee, and we make a break until 4:05. Okay, so welcome back after an extended coffee break. So according to the agenda, before the coffee break, we would have heard about more about the capacity building courses. Miro Marenci is a professor here at IHE Delft, and he was the let's say the head behind these courses. And in his presentation, he will give us now more insights into capacity building.
So that we are in a little bit behind the schedule. I will try to be fast and short. Yes, the work package 4 is a work package connected with the capacity building, and this was a job which was organized by us, but we can say organized by us, but we in the capacity building, nearly the whole consortium was actively working. That we have 5 countries, developing countries in the system. We in the project, we firstly what we have done was some scoping. What are the needs in the capacity building? We found out this what was on some way we can say expected is that the needs are on all fields of the hydropower design and development. This means from starting with the capacity with the two most important parameters, head and discharge, then over the whole technical points, and ending with environmental points and financial points. The tasks of the work package were training, teaching, selecting training, teaching methods, content and amount of the training. These were these two parts which were connected to the scoping. Then we have the courses, and of course after the course there is evaluation, what we have learned from them, and what we can improve and how we can go ahead with this one. Yes, as I said, the topics covered the whole I say planning and design process for the small hydropower. And the first problem or first idea was how to organize this course. And this was something which was then, I will say, innovative way, because we have always 2 countries on each of the continent, and to increase the efficiency of the course and save the costs, we do it on the continent way. This means normally the first part of the course was done in one of the partner countries with participants from the both continental countries. This means if we look with Africa, then it was first part of the course was in Uganda, and with participants from Uganda and Cameroon. And then the second part of the course was in Cameroon with again participants from the both countries, continental countries, we can see. This was the idea. The idea was at the beginning also that there will be some preparation time for the participants. Then there will be the time for the face-to-face lecturing, and then some post course time for additional information and additional works to be done. This was how it was planned. Of course, what I forgot to say, the EU, the project financed 8 participants from each country to make this continental travels. This means Uganda, 8 participants from Uganda were sponsored for the capacity building in Uganda and also in Cameroon and for the other country on the same page. What we can say additionally is that all the documents, all the lecture material have been collected on the Moodle platform. This is the educational platform which IG is using also for our regular students. And you see here the web page of the project. Here is written with the 66 participants because this was after Africa. We had totally more than 120 participants on the both continents, we can say, actively in the course. And all the documents were there. Also, the whole lecturing was done there, and all documents are recorded, represented there, and available for all of these 120 registered participants. We can say all the time. This was the theory, but of course we also suffered from Corona, and at least at the first part. We suffered a lot because the courses in Africa have been several times postponed, connected to another systems. At the end, it was done in the hybrid way. We can say that Uganda was done nearly exclusively online, and Cameroon was done then with some participants online, some lecturer online, some lecturer in Cameroon. And this was in January, February last year. And then in the summer, the situation with Corona was getting better, much more better, at least in Europe. And we participate nearly all face-to-face in Bolivia, in Ecuador in June, July, and August last year. Yes, some impressions from these courses, as I said, mostly online in the Africa. Which was good in this course was that all participants, or most of the participants, were situated in the hotel, and on this way we were on this one place, because we found out something which is also known, which we know from other courses. If you do it from home or from the office, your activity is much more less effective, I will say it in this way, than if you do it, if you are taken out of your normal environment and you have to be there. And this was seen very good in these courses, that people which were in were much more connected, not only to the learning much more better, but also this connection between the participants were much more stronger. Yes, the same similar picture we have also from the South American course and South American part, and of course at the end participants which made the course got the diplomas, and these diplomas was given then at the end of the course, not during the course. They were given then by the local partners in each of the countries. So what we can say about the reactions on the course, in most cases the reactions were very good. We have very positive reactions. I can say that nearly that there is no negative reaction, and you can say that the neutral reaction is negative, because it was all of this was positive. We have also on our web page of the Moodle page, there was also a questionnaire where we evaluated, and also the participants can make suggestions for the improvement. By the topics, of course, everybody is biased. Civil engineers like civil engineer topics, hydraulic engineers, hydraulic topics. Electrical engineers always say there is too less electrical topics in the course. These critics you must connect it. But what was something which was very important was that not only the courses in each of the country, we also made the site visits, which was included in the system. And the site visits have been seen as a very, very important part of the course, because there you can then on these power plants we can also see application of the system. What was also very very big advantage, and this I must say thank you to Bernhard, because it was also this workshop with the design of small hydropower plant, and this was something which I very appreciate. I do it also with my students, and this is something where they can really you can see everybody how they start to work, you can say. And also we had in South America then I was presented on the presentation at the end, which was also something which was really you have seen enthusiasm between the groups which were working. The idea of the course was also to implement and to get connection between the participants, or get the connection of the hydropower staff and hydropower experts between the continental countries, because on these mixing weeks it was a possibility to learn each other and to see that similar problems are existing and how the other colleagues are solving the problem. But especially in the South America, I like to speak on it with this way because I was there. In Africa I was not present, and maybe I missed this part. Maybe it was all the same way. But in South America there was between this Bolivian and Ecuador group, there was really friendship which was made, and I think they become friends for the life, at least several of them. And what was interesting, especially the colleagues or the participant from Ecuador said, these people, these 8-10 people which come together in Ecuador, they have not known each other. Some of them were known, but some of them were completely strangers before. And they're coming from supplier part, or representatives of the suppliers, different suppliers. They are coming from the owners of the power plant, from energy organizations, from government, and they all come together and they say, hey, we have to work together. Now it's nice that I know that you are existing. And this was something which was really added value of the I think for the whole project. Okay, here are some comments, reactions of the course. I think we have to Bernhard has a very long presentation. I heard just a few minutes ago. I will not go away. If somebody wants to know it, can do it. Most of this also what was in the questionnaire, I think said here. This is also a part which is not so important. What is the future strategy? This we will discuss tomorrow between the partners again. But what is now? We can say that the system is the Moodle site stays on our so-called open courseware internet site, which is available for everybody if you register. This stays available. This means all the documents which are there, participants, nearly 130, can access anytime. Can look at it, download, get deeper information, and the page will stay on our platform for the next time, at least next 5 years. This will be available. What we have to define tomorrow is the criteria for registration. And I think the best way that we need, because of all EU regulations, what we have, or limitations, what we have in the project, or also for other parts, we need some control of the data. It will not be completely open space. And we will do it on the way that there will be necessary the registration. Then you get temporary password, which you then change and get permanent access to the site. And my opinion is that these courses, the selection is done by the local partners. This means if you have some hydropower expert, new staff coming on, which want to participate on the course, it goes to the local project representative in the country. He writes the mail to us, to me, or to IT, and the IT gives him then this person the access to the system. On this way, we relatively know who is coming into the system. The question which we will have also to answer tomorrow is, will we want to extend it to the whole continent, or leave it at the beginning here? And these are something which have to be designed or have to be defined. So yes, I hope I was not too long. Any questions? Yes,
so questions. More than a question, probably a comment about the last slide about the future of these kind of things. Something that for sure I remarked about all the project HYPOSO is that this is enhancing knowledge and interaction between the different stakeholders and so on, and that's for sure the best. But something that we usually see as developers is that our counterparts in the side of the governments not necessarily are well prepared. And usually when we go to environmental authorities to get licenses and so on, they are not necessarily in the state of the art about hydropower and about everything that we are talking about. So in my opinion, and probably to be included in this future strategy, these kind of courses and these kind of teaching efforts and so on should also include our counterparts, to have a much more technical discussion between partners, because sometimes it becomes really, really complicated. And the work, in my opinion, with this counterpart, that is for sure working with governments, local governments, regional governments, should be actually much more extended, because usually the experts are usually in our side, in the development side, and not in the licensing or permit side. So the bridge, in my opinion, it's much bigger there than actually in the developing side. So more than a question is it's a comment that I will enhance that these kind of things include this direction.
Yeah, fully agree. It's fully clear. I'm also developer of the big hydropower or designer of the big hydropower in my other part of my life, and what I can say is that especially if you speak with environmental people, you speak different languages, and the best way is to bring both sides on the same language, and this you can only do that we hydropower developers learn what are the problems of the environmental people and accept this you can say, I will not say problems, but this way of thinking, and look at it, and also that they understand something of it. And the idea, what I can only say to this one is, we give them hint that they can learn what's coming out from our side and why we need the dam, or why we need the via structure, for example, in the river, and then to speak with them. This means, again, if you have such example and the other side want to learn something about the hydropower, then please tell them, come to the platform, read what is important, why we need this, and why this is necessary. You don't need to make the whole course. Maybe they don't need to know about the electrical and mechanical parts, but what is connected with the environmental and how it is connected. This should be the possible, we can say, first step of the connection.
Just as an additional comment, for sure, and not only environmental, people inside or counterparts. So sometimes policymakers are much more. There is a bridge also with the policymakers, and currently in the current state of the art about the market, that we all know that there are a strong focus on saying in the previous speech that renewables means solar and wind, and they are somehow missing some part of the full equation. We also need to reach policymakers. And something that is really important, and that's why I'm telling this in this context, is that IHE, with the support of UNESCO, for sure, has a different reception in that side. Because when I go as a developer to tell them, okay, please consider that hydropower is renewable, they think, okay, there is a conflict of interest on your opinion. And they are right. There is a conflict of interest if I go as a developer. But when an institution like IHE and multilateral institutions transport, because we live in them, of course, this message, the message is received much more better. And I believe that if the courses come from this institution, if the message comes from this institution, my message to you is that we need you for transporting this message because it will be much better received, not only environmental, also policymakers and also the institutions in our governments, but not only ours, for sure the other governments.
I can say fully agree, and I can only say my experience in it. I came here 18 years ago, and I was a developer of big hydropower. I was only technician before. But then here, with speaking with the colleagues from social, environmental, and all other departments, water management, I little bit, I must say, change also my opinion about hydropower. But this, what you said, Bernhard is sitting here. We have in Austria the Green Party in the Austrian government, and the Minister for Energy, when speaks about the renewable energy, is speaking about the wind and solar. And at the same time, Austria, 70% of all electrical energy is coming from hydropower. I think there is no comment. The Greens in the politics are good. It was a good wind which came with this government, but at the end they were lost because the hydropower is nobody wants to put hydropower in the mouth, because hydropower means also the process. And then it's better not to say it. Then you don't have the problem. And this is the philosophy of the government. And this we must change.
And these are wise words, and I need to end it now. Thanks a lot. I think the need has been identified. We will just jump now into, I think,
Ingo, we can stay till 7 o'clock here. No
problem. Looking at the time, probably the colleague can make it in 5 to 10 minutes. Yes. 12. So, this is now the presentation is called 50 potential hydropower sites in 5 countries and possibilities for in 5 countries.
12 minutes.
And possibilities for corporations. Speaker is Bernhard Pelikan, who is currently within HYPOSO riding together with the colleague from Close Your Next, and originally from Austria. He was heavily involved in all the pre-feasibility studies. Bernhard, please, floor is yours. Just yeah. Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I would prefer to say good afternoon, my dear friends, because I can't see anybody not being in friendship. So it was a great project, as it was mentioned several times. Ingo mentioned already that I was working together with HYPOSO Next. I think it's the correct time to mention that at the very beginning, when we agreed, HYPOSO Next and me, to work together in this project, we were already friends with Nino and Luigi, but after this period of several years, 3.5 years, we are even more closer. We became even more closer friends. And so I want to say thank you that HYPOSO Next accepted me as a senior expert. So it was a pleasure to work with you. I hope it's for the last time we work together. Yeah, we are not in the age with a very long future, but there is some more 10 years we can continue working effectively. Minimum. So, it's my job now for the next 12 minutes to give an overview of our work package number 5. And this work package should work. Yeah. This work package, or the core of the work package, was to elaborate 15 pre-feasibility studies in the countries you heard already, so 2 in Africa, 3 in Latin America. And but this, the elaboration of the 15 pre-feasibility studies was not all we had to do. So it was, I think, earlier or only orally, it was several tasks we had to fulfill, and this elaboration of the feasibility study, pre-feasibility studies, was only one of totally 4 tasks we had to fulfill. So, what is a pre-feasibility study? Many people think they know what it is, but I'm quite sure they don't know exactly what it is, and it was the same to us, so we had to figure out at the very beginning what to do, because pre-feasibility study is only a word. And we saw some pre-feasibility studies and we had some doubts that it's really a pre-feasibility study. Nino can confirm that. So we had to find our own way, and finally we did a kind of pre-feasibility study. It was mentioned already today. It was let's say a 5-star pre-feasibility study. Usually it should stop earlier. But we decided to do it as good, as complete as possible. I don't want to go into detail much more, but these are the topics that should be checked within a pre-feasibility study. Technical solution, costs and mental aspects, and social aspects. And the reason for doing that is to exclude either some options or probably even to kick out the entire project, because it's for one or more reasons not viable. It should not be recommended to proceed with this project because it will not become a success. So you should do it in a very early stage, because any type of engineering means investment. So if you figure out very early in the project that it's a poor project, then forget about it and get away with another project. This is the main task of such a pre-feasibility study. Here you can see the rough structure of such a pre-feasibility. So, general description, general regional description, general site description, hydrology, highly important, just here 1 or 2 or 3 words, but of highest importance. Layout alternatives. I want to underline that you should start with such a pre-feasibility completely open-minded. You should not exclude, or you must not exclude, any solution too early, because it may later on become the best solution. So you have to believe in your fantasy what could be done. And then if you have 2, 3, or 4 options, then you can compare these options, and then you can figure out really what is the best option. the reason for, let's say, for taking all the thinkable options is that you can avoid with this procedure that later on somebody will come and say, have you mentioned by the way this option? And then you have to say, no, sorry, we forget about it. This is a poor answer. So better to say, of course we did it, but we sorted it out, and it was not a good option. Then you see the project description, so the technical part. Finally, in chapter 7, the feasibility check and the risk analysis, which was not a simple task to be fulfilled within these pre-feasibility studies. You see, it's not only one feasibility, it's several feasibilities, so legal, technical, financial, environmental, political, organizational, and resources-related feasibility, and finally also socio-economic feasibility. So we have checked all of these criteria to find out the best solution. It was, as you can imagine, some work at least. Finally, I spoke about different options, 2, 3, 4 options, and how to select the best one. You can do it with a kind of a set of selection criteria. I put out here only, let's say, kind of headlines of the selection criteria. So the suitable location of the intake, the best possible location of the powerhouse, measured on different criteria, access road, geological condition, minimized cost, or land ownership. One land ownership can kill your position, because the guy there says, forget about my land, it goes somewhere else. So you have to check it in a very early stage. Or the trace of the pipeline, access roads. We were working in countries where access sometimes was definitely a little bit difficult, to say it in a very, very polite way. It was, to say it in an honest way, almost impossible to access one or the other place, but we tried our best to do so. Also for the trace of the pipeline, the geological conditions are very important, and again the land ownership. Minimization or optimization of head and power, which is completely clear for an engineer. It should not be forgotten, this core criteria. Minimization of construction risks, safety, low maintenance solutions we tried to find. And finally, the minimization of environmental and social impact on a couple of criteria. You know most of them. Reserved flow criteria in all the diversion plants. Fish bypassing. When you create a backwater area, you should take care of how to manage the backwater area. Or some water abstraction used for local people, by local people, for irrigation, for water, for operational water, sometimes even for drinking water. Fisheries. So we met people, you may remember, Nino, it was in Uganda, where the father with his son was trying to catch some fish because they want to have some dinner. And the young boy was only presenting the fish he caught a couple of minutes before. So this is really local needs, even washing and leisure activities. I think later on you may see some pictures. I tried to put all these criteria concerning feasibility check now in the form of a table, because it's easily to be evaluated if you have a table including different colors. You see on the first side in one glance, okay, green, very good, green, yellow, well but not perfect, then yellow, and then orange, and finally red. So this was the table. We did it for, of course, every plant to, let's say, to have a rough idea what will be the result, what will be the effect of such a plant. And what I would like to mention in a very early stage, like in a very early stage of these projects,
it's in many cases not possible to evaluate one or the other criteria due to the early stage of the project. We have to develop the project further on, and then we can complete or revise or add something concerning this feasibility check, because some criteria are not to be evaluated. It is simply not possible. We have to accept it. Here you see a sketch concerning the risk analysis. So risk analysis are very different from country to country. In European countries, you may say in some of these fields or kinds of risks, it's not a task in Germany, it's not a task in Poland, it's not a task in Italy, but it may be a task in Cameroon, it may be a task in Bolivia or somewhere else in the world. So you have to check it. The country commercial risk, the country legal risk, probably the legal framework may change in the next 5 years, 10 years. Very difficult to evaluate what may happen in the next 10 years. We cannot, unfortunately, see into the future. But, yeah, we should try the best. Project development risk. We know about projects that started up quite quickly, and then for reasons not very clear, the project died. For maybe quite good reasons, but you cannot foresee it clearly. You have to think on that, you have to check it out as good as possible. Construction completion risk. So for an engineer, everything can happen. As an engineer, you will try to find the best solution, but nevertheless, it could happen that some unknown conditions will appear later on during construction time. And then you have to meet these additional demands and these additional restrictions. To be summed up in a construction completion risk. Operation risk, so think on a flood. For example, it's typical operation risk. You are not expecting a flood. Flood comes, crashes some parts of your plant. You were not prepared well. Okay, this is risk that you have to take. You cannot avoid it, the flood, but you can get better prepared or not so good prepared, and you have to evaluate the risk. It's only 20% risk or it's 80% risk. And finally, the political risk. Everything can happen in our times. I remember very many years ago I was involved in a project in the Ukraine. We tried to buy a really big plant, so nobody knows what will happen in the next hopefully only 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 months, hopefully not longer, but everything may happen. Another colleague is involved in a project in Georgia, so some political risk. Of course, the plant very nice, but I would prefer a plant somewhere here in Austria, in Germany, and not in Georgia. Something may happen, political risk. So now I had the big problem that it was from the timeline not possible to show you all the 15 plants. So I did a hopefully wise selection. I took 1 plant per country to stay fair. So I will go from country to country and give you only 1 example with a couple of pictures. First, let's start with Uganda. Picture of the river we were working on. Some information concerning precipitation. You see here 800 millimeters, quite a very good acceptable precipitation. Some of you will, of course, immediately identify the plant, but I try to avoid to give any names. So to keep it open, you see the catchment and the variation of the precipitation. But so you may imagine we are quite high somewhere in the mountains. It will not be the lowlands, most probably. If you take a look to the flow duration curve, not only on this 3-horned chameleon, which we found when walking along the road. This size animal, beautiful, simply beautiful. And I admire his small hands, or her small hands, climbing up on the arm of our guide. But aside this, you see here the flow duration curve, the colors, different colors, different years. The red one is the mean flow duration curve. It's a good example. So if we got this kind of hydrology, I was quite satisfied. Definitely quite satisfied. Later on, I will show you one of the other examples, which drives me really crazy when looking at the duration curves. But yeah, you have to cope with it. Anyhow, this was a quite good and satisfying example. Some main data give you an idea what we are talking about. It is a mean head runoff-river diversion plant with a rated head of 125 meters, rated flow of 9 cubics. Some words about it. Yeah, I have to mention period of exceedance along the duration curve, 200 days. Some of you may say this guy is completely crazy because exceedance 200 days is much too long. I would prefer 100 days or 120 days. I completely agree, but in this case I was trying to be very careful because we were not clear about the position of the gauging station, because it was destroyed many years ago and we couldn't find precisely the place. Now I think I'm a little bit better informed, but at that time when we did the study it was not clear. So I put in some buffer to stay on the safe side when selecting the rated flow. This is the reason for the long period of exceedance concerning the rated flow. Power 9 megawatts. Annual electricity generation approximately 60 gigawatt hours. According to the 200 days, the capacity factor is rather high. In this special case, I would appreciate the capacity factor around 50. In this case, you have 0.50, of course, and in this case, you have 0.67. Total investment only 18.6 million. If you calculate the specific investment, it's really excellent figures with 30 cents per kilowatt hour related to the production and 2,000 euros per kilowatt related to the power. This is good figures. I would appreciate to have such a plant in my country. I would tomorrow start construction works, or better yesterday. Excellent mean head power plant. Cameroon, precipitation, mean precipitation 900 millimeters per year, so more or less the same size. Catchment, also some variation, but not a big variation within the catchment. You see the red points are the intake and the position of the power. So the catchment itself has a more or less constant, but equal precipitation values. Flow duration curve, Cameroon 1. Even in this place, this example, you see that I selected the rated flow a little bit below the mean flow, which I usually not doing it this way. Usually I'm some 20% higher, 20% above mean flow. But we have only a very short time series, so again, to stay on the safe side, I selected or I decided to go with some 800 liters per second. Probably in period of the realization, we have more hydrological values. We can correct it and take 1 cubic meter or even more per second. Maybe, but we have only 2 or 3 years of data. This is nothing from the hydrological point of view. Data. Rated head almost 500 meters, 800 liters per second. Rated power, a little bit more than 3 megawatts. generation 15, almost 16 gigawatt hours, capacity factor a little bit higher than usual, 0.58, investment cost estimated 8.5, almost 8.5 million euros. The specific values, which are more, let's say, expressive, 0.5 euros per kilowatt hour or 2.7 thousand euros per kilowatt, which is a little bit higher, but still very good values, I would like to say. Even in this plant, I would start yesterday with construction work. Bolivia, you see a picture on the left of this slide. So very steep, very exciting. Yeah. You just have to see it and you have to feel it, and then you know what you are doing. Precipitation, 850 millimeters per year. So much less than in the other examples. Flow duration curve, mean flow 46, rated flow 60 cubics per second. In this case, we selected a dam because imagine to operate 60 cubic meters per second in a sand trap. It will be a rather big construction works. So we decided to build a dam. Finally, I think in this case 80 or 90 meters high, so really a big dam. And in this plant we could offer weekly storage, approximately. Unfortunately, only weekly storage, because you have seen the picture, very steep, very narrow. So even if you impound tenth of meters, let's say the volume will increase, will slowly increase. If you have a flat area, it will be completely different story. So therefore we are in, let's say, the usual range in this example. Main data, rated head 70 meters, rated flow 70 cubic meters. Now you may say, okay, he was right now speaking about 60 cubic meters, now he's speaking about 70 cubic meters. It was too late when I mentioned. It's not a mistake, but with a diversion plant, you are with 60 cubics. But with a dam concept, you can activate another contributor getting through to the main river, supplying another 10 cubic meters per second. And the dam will be downstream of the junction of the two rivers. Therefore, the proposal was not with 60, but finally with 70 cubic meters per second, but only valid for the dam version and not for the diversion.
Just a small question. Would it also help to include payback period in terms of the...
Sorry? To help what?
To include ROI, return on investment or payback period. Would it help to include that as well?
You mean the storage option? Will improve the value or will increase the value of the energy?
From an investor developer standpoint, does it make sense to include? I mean, you got the answer. I already got the answer from that. That you don't necessarily need to include payback periods in there.
No, it's usually a way to include to say it's 10 years or 12 years or 50 years. In this case, it was not so simple.
Only because you did have to check whether it's financial.
And I can give you some reason. If you try to find out the payback period, you have to evaluate the value of the kilowatt hour. And this was a factor we didn't get, because the operator, depending on the kind of operator, this value may differ significantly. So therefore we stayed only with these figures and not giving payback periods. Yeah? 40 megawatts, 228 gigawatt hours, 333 million euros. So it's not fake figures, the 333, it's really the outcome of a detailed calculation. It was the job of Nino for several weeks, and he tried his best to figure out all these figures. What is surprising a little bit for me that the costs are rather high. I suppose that mainly the dam, 70 or 75 meters high, may create the high cost. But probably Nino, you have another view. But I suppose this is the main reason, and therefore even the 1.5 euros per kilowatt hour is too expensive, simply. But probably we'll find a way, nevertheless, to do or to realize this project. Ecuador, again the same map showing the precipitation, 1500 millimeters per year. Terrible duration curves, so high variation is nothing. This is more than high variation, and yeah, I announced it, but you have to take a decision. No chance. Engineer cannot say, okay, forget about me. Engineer has to present a solution. We try to do our best with these 19 cubic meters per second, which is definitely a lot of water, and it's not too high. You see, it's 112 days period of exceedance. It's not extreme, definitely not extreme with this size. So it could be even less, but I'm conservative, so I prefer a conservative solution. Main data, 170 meters, 19 cubics, 25 and 26 megawatts, capacity factor in a good range, 0.53, 120 gigawatt hours, 59 million euros, and very acceptable specific values for production and also for capacity. So 50 cents per kilowatt hour and 2,300 euros per kilowatt. It's the third one I would start yesterday. Interesting, very interesting project. Last one, getting to Colombia. We have a mean precipitation of 1,750 millimeters per year. We have even worse situation concerning flow duration curve. I prefer the red one, which is on the right hand side. So this is the best one, and so it's going up somewhere. So I have the fear that the gauging station is not badly working, but probably it's no working. I don't know, but these are the pictures I would like to put it on let's say a poster and put it on the wall in my office, just for demonstration, to keep me knowing that I would laugh about the better solution. So always have the worst case in your eyes, then you will be fine every day. Main data, 1,370 meters. Very good head. Definitely 1.4 cubic meters per second. Also quite acceptable. Usually with this head you may have 200 meters or 300 meters, but not 1.4 cubics. River gradient 20%. This gives you, let's say, a good impression of what we are talking about. 20% is a lot. 15 megawatt, 86 gigawatt hours, capacity factor rather high because I was again rather careful not to get too high. Other person could take 1.6 or 1.8 cubic meters per second, but I tried to stay rather on the safe side. Investment 25 millions and investment costs which are really convincing. I'd like to say 30 euros per 0.30 euros per kilowatt hour and 1,600 euros per kilowatt. So very, very, very interesting project. These was the 5 examples. So some conclusions. You see this, I think the picture comes from Cameroon, if I'm right. It was, I couldn't escape to take this picture. It was really nice. Yeah, some conclusions. The great majority, not all of them, but the great majority of the sites are economically, in my view, very attractive. And the recent state of the project after this pre-feasibility, I would like to call them quite well developed, so you're ready to go ahead. The further project development needs, for sure, there is no way, local contact persons. And within this project, we have found these local contact persons being available and being reliable. So to work with these friends would be a pleasure. The plants will be generally grid connected, but I think there will be some need for local electricity consumption directly covered by the plant, but it's only a technical story. All of the projects will respect and meet the local needs of the population, because this is the second basis. You need, of course, local partners, but you need also the support of the local population. Otherwise it will end up in a mess. And it's recommended to get local communities as partners. If they feel being a co-owner of a plant, they will take care for this plant the next 50 years. So it's better to bring them into the boat. It's the best solution, not only for developing countries. We are doing the same in my country. During the study tour, we visited one plant which was owned by 6 communities. Another one plant was only owned by 1 community. Anyhow, this is a very good solution. The most plants, due to the fact that the most of the plants will exploit excellent natural potential, the cost will most probably be rather low. Not for free, but rather low. And we must not forget that responsible hydropower exploitation will finally support this baby here in the picture and some other young guys in the schoolyard we passed by. Was a picture from Cameroon, if I remember correctly. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bernhard. Looking to the time, we don't have actually time for questions, but if there's one urgent question, we could take it. Else, we would just continue with the next presentation by Eva Malitzka. She is working, well, she is the president of the Polish Small Hydropower Association and was responsible for Work Package 6. Basically the market uptake. She will speak today about framework conditions for small hydropower experiences from 3 continents. So, Eva, in a second, the floor is yours. Here.
Hello everybody. As Ingo mentioned, the presentation that I'm going to give today is the experiences from 3 continents. So I understand we have to include also the comparison to the European conditions in this. And first I will just give a short outlook what is the Work Package 6 about, what was the aim of the workshops. And then I will give an overview of the workshops in Africa and in Latin America. And then I will try to have a word about experiences from Europe as well. So Work Package 6 is about market uptake of European hydropower technologies in the target countries. And one of the tasks in this work package was organizing workshops on the framework conditions for hydropower in each target country. which was quite difficult because, as it was already mentioned, this project was started together, I may say, just together with the COVID pandemic. So it was a bit of a challenge to organize 5 workshops, but in the end we made it. So the workshops were to discuss about the all kind of conditions for the development of small hydropower projects in the target countries. So economical conditions, legal conditions, environmental conditions, and discuss about it with the local stakeholders. And also present the analysis which was previously done by our partner from Lithuania together with the local partners. So there was already some data collected about the conditions, and also we tried to include some conclusions from the visits, from the site visits to the pilot sites, and bring all the stakeholders and also the policymakers and discuss with them a bit about the problems, the barriers that are there, and try to find the solutions, how to overcome these barriers, and maybe even make some proposals of recommendations what could be changed. And I made 2 parts of this presentation. So first I will present the conclusions from the workshops in Africa and then in Latin America. And first workshop was organized in Cameroon in January 2022. And the second that was the first workshop, but in the time this one was the one in Uganda was actually the last workshop, because not only the pandemic was our obstacle to organize the workshop, but also some Ebola issues, so we had to postpone this workshop, but finally we also made it in March this year in Kampala. And here I tried to make some groups of areas for improvement, because this was the discussion. Sorry, maybe I had to sometimes, it is difficult to put some issue or problem into the right, I don't know, the right subject, because sometimes they overlap, but anyway, I try to do so. And the letters, which you can see in the slide, it means that these issues were raised either in Cameroon or in Uganda or in both countries. So in both continents, mostly the financial challenges and the regulation challenges were raised. And in African countries, the problems of high upfront cost and limited access to early stage support, as well as problems with the financing pre-feasibility studies were raised very often. It was also mentioned today during the discussions. So the need to encouraging potential investors is a financial challenge in African countries. And also the problem of financial capacity of local site owners and developers, because it is very difficult to meet the financial requirements. Then also the high interest rates and perceived high risk of the investment was mentioned in both countries, and some even as I don't know, simple problems as money transfer issues were mentioned in Cameroon, for example, or the need for insurance to cover the project was also reported in Uganda, for example. And here, with this HYPOSO sign, I indicated these points which were some kind of solution or some kind of maybe a recommendation for HYPOSO was made during these meetings. So, for example, concerning the problems with financing the feasibility studies, it was mentioned that the analysis, the financial analysis, will be made during the together with the studies, and it has been done. And our colleague here, Mark, is the author of this analysis. And so, if maybe he can show some other alternatives than the standard solutions for acquiring funds. However, I think this is actually a big issue anyway. Now, the regulations, yeah, this was a very interesting discussion about the regulations always. So, a lot of bureaucracy in developing hydro projects. And in every country, I think at some point there was this idea of the one-stop shop raised, that it would be needed to have one place where you can apply and get all information and get the permissions. However, it is very much of a wish, not only in target countries but also in Europe. But still, this is something that should be considered. The need of feed-in tariff mechanism was also mentioned both in, I think, in Cameroon mainly, but also the need of standardized procedures. It was something that was raised or reported as a need. And here a nice kind of cooperation between African partners appeared, because we had a colleague from Uganda, a partner from Uganda at the workshop in Cameroon, and then a nice exchange of the PPA templates was proposed by the Ugandan partner, as in Uganda it was said that there is such a template, so maybe they could exchange it. And also the problem of favoring large hydropower was reported both in Africa and in Latin America, for different reasons maybe, but still. And and also, again, even some very simple problems, such as difficulties in establishing a private company in the hydropower sector, was reported, for example, in Cameroon. So, well, the issues are of different, I would say, very, very different here. Of course, these are not all the problems that were discussed or mentioned, but these are the ones that appeared repeatedly. And then also about the area of capacity building or expertise, needs for expertise. So, although the capacity trainings were organized in both African countries, this is the need that is still there. So there were over 67 applicants for the capacity building, so a lot of interest, and it's still something that should be that should be somehow continue this capacity building in the countries. And also the need for local expertise on hydropower designing. Of course, this is also the part of the capacity building. And yeah, also some authorities mentioned that there is a lack of knowledge on the side of applicants when they try to apply for permits, that they make mistakes, that they also have some needs to fulfill their knowledge. Also, there are some areas that could be connected with data, that the needs in the area of data or infrastructure, like for example, the lack of infrastructure to deliver electricity generated in the power plant to the grid, which leads to the risk of lack of bankability of projects. Also, the problem of scarcity of in-depth information for the sites that are in the HYPOSO map. And here, of course, the need of continuation of HYPOSO was indicated or raised in this aspect. And generally, scarcity of information on hydrology, climate potential, and other statistical data, especially in the rural areas, was mentioned often. In some cases, also in rural communities, there was reported that there is a low social acceptance of these kinds of projects. However, it was reported mostly in Cameroon. Okay, and now we go to the next continent, so the workshops in Latin America. So the first one was in Bolivia, in Cochabamba in July 2022, and then the one in Ecuador a few days after the first one, and the one in Colombia, in Medellin, was organized this year in the end of February. And here also here really the regulations, I tried to put it into one slide, but it was really very hard to put all the problems that were raised there in Latin America. So lack of political and economic incentives to small hydro was reported, and again prioritizing large hydropower, also prioritizing other sources of renewable energy other than hydropower, and lack of regulations that would be especially for small hydropower. But in Bolivia, it was that, for example, the regulations are missing at all. Not only that there are not good, better regulations or other regulations for small hydro, but that the regulations are not there. The need of improvement of legislation, lack of clarity, certainty was reported in Ecuador very much. There was an example of price change during the project, which was really very bad for the investors. And a need of simpler approach towards small hydro projects. Then also the long and demanding environmental license procedures. Well, that reminds me of something that is happening in Europe too. And in that case, there are no special regulations for small hydropower, then, for example, making the preferability studies for small hydropower is relatively more demanding and expensive than for large hydro because of lack of this differentiation. And also what was indicated is the need to distinct between small and large hydro, that they are put into one basket and it shouldn't be done. And again, a one-stop shop recommendation. There was also in Ecuador mentioned some need for improvement of water fees, and what I mentioned before, the stability of tariffs, and also, need to develop strategies to have public-private partnerships was reported in Ecuador, and more. And then the financial challenges in Latin America were that that the fiscal incentives, it is a bit connected with regulations, that the fiscal or financial incentives are more allocated to other renewable energy sources, not to small hydro. That the problem of access to green credits also was discussed. The need to improve organizational structures and financing mechanisms to encourage the development of small hydro, simply almost the same as the other problems. And then in the area of capacity building, again, little experience in specific expertise in small hydro was mentioned, but also very few private hydropower projects. For example, in Bolivia, there are only 3 or 4 companies, private companies, with hydropower projects. So this is really no experience at all. Need to better access for information on how to develop the procedures, operation and maintenance personnel qualification was reported in Colombia. For capacity building facilities and programs, and also lack of especially devoted to hydropower study programs was reported in Bolivia. In the area of infrastructure and data, it was reported that in Colombia and in Bolivia there is a lack of manufacturing capacity for small hydropower components, that they have to be imported very often, that there are very few companies offering services or equipment for small hydro. Also the restrictions about the data access, or lack of technical information, or equipment testing facilities and so on, and no effective technical integration of small hydropower plants into the electricity system was reported in Ecuador. And among others, in each Latin America country, there was the same recommendation to create a small hydropower association in the same way as other technologies, other renewable technologies have them. And here, one of the partners was especially interested in creating such association, but not only the association for stakeholders from Colombia, but also some Colombian and European association was recommended to start, and CELAP, our partner from Colombia, offered to lead this action. And there was also indicated the need to emphasize the significance of the supply of the electricity from hydropower projects to local communities, and also the energy recuperation was indicated as an important topic to emphasize the significance of it, and also the problems of social concerns and community opposition was mentioned in Colombia and Ecuador. That there are some environmental groups that are sometimes protesting against the small hydro projects, and need to encourage link between private companies and local institutions was also mentioned in Bolivia. Yeah, and as I said at the beginning, the title of this presentation is the experience from 3 continents. So I also tried to a bit compare to the situation in the target countries to the situation in Europe. So first, this is to show just the basic European directives that have to be taken into consideration and that are relevant for hydropower, and they all have to be some kind reflected in national regulations in all EU countries. So as you can see, they are only the main directives, so there are also a lot of detailed regulations under this. So as you can see, there is a lot of regulations, and as it was said in Bolivia, that there are really very few regulations or no regulations for small hydropower. So in Europe, we may say that we are a bit over-regulated here. However, some of these regulations are also promoting and facilitating the development of renewable energy and small hydropower projects. And based on some of these regulations in most countries, for example, this mechanism of support schemes were introduced. So this was something that was missing in many African or Latin American countries. And also the goals to increase the share of renewable energy was introduced by these regulations. Also, this was something that Dirk already was talking about. But the problem is that some of these goals that were set for small hydropower may never be actually achieved because of other regulations that are making the procedures to get the permits very complicated and time-consuming, and especially in the area of very strict environmental conditions, which can also affect not only the development of new projects, but also may influence the existing projects. So this is something that Europe also has the problem with. Other limitations that I would like to mention in Europe are also simply natural limitations because of the availability of local hydropower potential, especially the hydraulic head. When I was looking at BedNet presentations and saw these heads that were presented for the target countries, I really wished we had such heads in Poland, but we are a flat country, and that's the natural limit that we cannot somehow do anything about it. So, this is Europe, and also in some countries, like for example in Austria or others that have really higher heads, the potential is to much extent already developed. So this is simply the natural limit for Europe, which is not there in the target countries. And also the problem is also the perception of small hydro, which is often looked at as the source of very moderate amounts of energy that can be produced, and on the other hand, quite significant interference with the environment. Of course, I don't agree with this, but this is the perception of small hydro in Europe a little bit. And yes, so these are the limitations that we are facing in Europe. However, to give something positive in the end, due to the recent geopolitical development in Europe and the energy crisis that we face, now the Commission issued the recommendation on speeding up permitting procedures for renewable energy projects, and this is also what was mentioned today by Dirk. And this should help the development of renewable energy projects, including small hydro. So we will see if it will work. However, even if this recommendation is given, it still keeps the obligation to assess the environmental impacts and all the procedures connected with the Water Framework Directive and other directives which are more like kind of protecting the environment. So we will see if this will really change the speed of granting permits. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Eva. I will not allow any question. Why? Because now we have heard the European perspective on countries and also from Europe. But now we will directly start with our panel discussion. It will be moderated by Dirk Hendricks from EREP. And this panel, what I actually like to see is that all the representatives from our target countries bring their point to the panel, and then we can, if we are still motivated, we can play the ping pong of the good and bad, and if not, then we have a short panel. But I think it's, you came a long way here, so you should also have the say. You have seen what was more or less presented by the European perspective. But now I think it's time for an international panel, our partner country panel, I would call it now. To the panel, may I invite from Colombia Sergio Gomez, from Consultora Endemica, from Ecuador José Jara from Select EP, from Bolivia José María Romay, currently president of BOCOLD, and before, correct me if it's wrong, but the ex-vice minister for energy in Bolivia. From Uganda, we have Benam Bain from Sebe Hydro Uganda Limited. And from Cameroon, we have Valérie Nkour. He's the director for renewable energies at the ministry, at the MEMD. That is the short version. The long name of the ministry is Ministry for
Water and Energy.
Oh, okay. Then my acronym was wrong. I apologize. Okay, and actually, I don't know whether you will have the chance to speak, but you also had said we will bring maybe a European perspective on it, and that would be Bernhard. If you would just sit and maybe comment from the side if there is time and if it's needed. Maybe our colleagues from our partner countries will run the show. And as I said, moderator is Dirk Hendricks. You have more or less 1 hour time. No, you have. Yes, the original plan was to finish at 6, but I think we will stay. Well, some minutes over 6, and then it won't be a long final talk. We are hungry, I think. Yeah.
No, thanks really very much. Specifically also to Emma, who gave already quite some good aspects to it. But here the title of the session is the role of small hydropower in a changing energy system. Now, just to break it down a little bit, what we mean with change is, I mean, of course, at least from a European perspective, but this is what we would like to hear as well from you, is change in Europe would be to go from fossil fuels to phase them out and switch to renewables. This is number one, but I mean then also because you have more and more renewables coming on, the question of kind of what of system you have. Do you have a centralized energy system? Do you have a decentralized energy system? Decentralized energy systems like, for example, with microgrids in it, with off-grid structures in it. And if you're going to see this and you're going to look at your country analysis, where specifically do you see the role of small hydropower in there, and how it could kind of like best work to facilitate this kind of like changing energy system here? I would say like if everybody can make a comment to statements.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. So, like to start, I'm from Colombia. So what we have there is mostly a centralized energy system, which is like connected like everywhere, and also there are some uncentralized parts there in Colombia. So we have a huge potential, in my point of view, for small hydropower, not only because of the topography and the amount of water we have there, but also because getting the grid to some of the places it's not easy. So you can come to a perspective in which you can have more of a distributed generation system, you know, like not a centralized or huge plant that can go to every single part of the place, but also having small hydropowers that can where you can generate in locally and have energy for the local production. And in that way, you can help the regions to develop, because most of our regions are too away, are too far apart. We don't have much of a state on those kinds of regions. So if you get the hydropower to there, you get electricity, which is the basis, and from that basis you can get communities to work and start to industrialize and to develop from this small hydro perspective. And actually that's really nice, because we have seen, we work a lot doing environmental studies, so I'm an environmentalist that thinks that hydropowers are good, like for a change, you know. And we have seen how these hydropowers can really change communities, and they change them because they get them to a good quality electricity system locally. And from there, they can develop their industry. That's not able to be done with solar or wind projects, because they cannot achieve a good electricity power like in the base, you know. So that's our perspective, and that's how I think that small hydropowers can fit in, for example, in the Colombian system.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so good afternoon to all of you. Well, first I have to say I'm not an hydro engineer. I come from wind energy industry. But as Bernard says, I got infected with HYPOSO Project.
It's completely secret now.
But I come from Select. We have large hydro. So the main focus on the industry in Ecuador, in hydro industry, is large hydro. And they see that doing a small is like, it's not a business. But then, after the position of Bernard, then I will go for the risk. We developed in the last years many hydropowers, large hydro, with a lot of risk, and now we have a lot of problems. For instance, one of the big hydropower now is we have a geological problem that is going up, and then maybe this hydropower will disappear, we don't know. So then small hydro has a huge potential to support the transition in Ecuador. We can distribute along the Andean region in Ecuador this huge potential. We just finished a study and we have a lot of sites. A similar study that you did in HYPOSO, but we did by Select, another study with medium to large. And also we found small. And then most of the sites are located in indigenous land. Then it's a problem. But then we have another potential there. Most of these indigenous communities has cooperatives, like banks. It's not a bank, it's cooperativa. Savings cooperative. And they have money. And they are the owners of the water system. And they are also using this for irrigation. So maybe we can combine, hydropower, irrigation, indigenous people, and they become the owners, not the users, or maybe who are affected by many parties. So I think this could be a huge potential for hydropower besides of energy production. And another thing that I see a huge potential is collaboration between countries. For instance, Colombia has developed a lot of small hydro with private sector, and Ecuador is still in the initial phase. So we can collaborate with local engineering and with European technology. So I think this is also that we should work in the stakeholder.
Yeah, that's my Yes, good afternoon, everybody. So in Bolivia, as a part of the Paris Agreement, as well as too many countries, we have to agenda to plan of 5 years that include all alternative energy as photovoltaic, wind, and hydros as well. But in Bolivia, we have developed the 15 years, the last 15 years, just large hydro, about 5 projects. We are developing right now 2 large hydros in Bolivia. But of course, there is an opportunity to develop small hydros. So we have a new policies that allow the whole house distributed generation, of course, that allow the house to generate its own energy. So that is an opportunity to introduce to get some small hydro as well in Bolivia. So with the HYPOSO project, we of course we had an opportunity, a knowledge. We have of course the networking with European technology right now to get that policies. But we need, as commented, we need too many policies, specific policies to a small hydro, because we don't have that kind of policies. So just for large. So that is the opportunity to develop the policies. Right. And then we have too many professionals in hydro, in the sector hydro, but the last years, just in the public sector, was developing that knowledge. So we need to involve our private companies as well and get together the new policies for small.
Thank you. My name is Bernard Maine from Uganda. About the question, fortunately, Uganda is one of the countries where in the recent past there has been a lot of development on small hydro. I think in the last about 15 to 20 years, we've had quite several developers that are looking at small hydro projects. I think currently we should be having about maybe 20 small hydro projects that are owned by different private investors, majorly. And there's a couple of about 20 or 30 which are both in construction but also in feasibility study stage. But what we see as the role that small hydros could play much more is that in the recent past, most of these investors have been largely owned and developed and managed by international and foreign investors. So I see that there is an opportunity for us to unlock local investment through these small hydro projects, because they have a relatively much lower cost that is needed for investment. Of course, it's not very low, but at least it's relatively lower compared to the larger hydros. And a country like Uganda, where there's an open window for investment for private investors and IPPs to invest in the project, we have an opportunity to unlock the local investment from the local developers. And of course, the HYPOSO project was more specifically emphasizing this aspect, work with the local developers to be able to give them an opportunity. And of course, they mentioned about the capacity issues, which also comes with the bit of the capacity. Largely, we've been lacking, the required capacity, both starting from the project identification, pre-feasibility, feasibility, but also construction and then operation and maintenance. So I think if we put efforts on building more capacity, like the project HYPOSO has been doing, we support more local developers to be able to develop this project. There's a very huge potential that the small hydro can unlock. Maybe as also cited by my colleagues, of course we have to be aware that, for example, in Uganda, one of the issues that we face is grid instability, that being a small grid, you cannot load it so much with the intermittent sources, which is the solar and wind, and therefore small hydro gives us an opportunity to provide the needed, more stable base load for the grid that could give an opportunity to unlock the other intermediate sources. The decentralized nature of the small hydros is also very key. Rather than depending on the centralized large power plants, and then you have to transmit the electricity to the very distant rural areas, having these projects developed in the local areas, developed by local developers, but also working with the communities, gives the communities ownership on these projects. And this unlocks a very huge potential, because you work with the communities, provide job opportunities to the communities, let the communities own the projects. And it gives you an advantage, because then the power can be generated and consumed locally, which helps in reducing the energy losses from transmitting the power, but also gives the communities this opportunity. I think maybe lastly, what I needed to note is there are the new technologies on some portable sort of solutions for small hydropower. We're talking about the likes of kinetic hydro solutions. I think these also give an opportunity to close the gap, because for example in my country, grid access is only 19% of the population. 38% comes from the off-grid different solutions. There's still a very big gap that these micro and very small hydro solutions can play in closing the energy access gap, especially in the rural areas where the rivers exist. So, yeah, that's my thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Valentin. I am from Cameroon. Director of Renewable Energy and Energy Management. So, concerning the question, according to the geographical form of our country, we need both decentralized system and net grid system. Actually, our country has two networks, electricity network. One in the south of the country and another in the north of the country. And today, in our country we have good potential of small hydroelectricity, and that is very important to develop it, because even in network system, centralized system, small hydro power can help to stabilize the network. It's very important. And in rural area where the electricity network cannot reach because you need more to invest for transportation, it's too far from some part of the special, so you can use off-grid solution using small hydropower power plant. But the problem now is the policy market, the volunteer is there, but the private sector, the private investment is not come because I don't know why. You have the problem is too much the policy maker decision and the private sector, so that you can able to move to realize smart hydropower plant. Bon, private sector need, when she comes, need to find if the studies, that's the great problem. You have to do a lot of studies, maybe to launch a tender so that you can select the good developer to realize a good project. That's what I think
I just want to check very quickly if there are any comments or questions to the panelists at that stage. Because otherwise, Valerie, there's one thing that you mentioned here. The policymaker want actually to support small hydropower. How is it in the other countries with regard to policymakers? Two things: not only the political will to do something, but I mean, what is your impression? How much is small hydropower and the opportunities understood by decision makers? I mean, do they know what kind of potential they have? Do they understand what they could do with that? Or is this, for example, in comparison to, I don't know, other like photovoltaic or wind, sort of like less known and consequently not on the political agenda or political world? Just a question. You answered already, but if you want to add, please, and then we can go backwards.
Well, the problem is that the decision, the target, for example, concerning the small hydropower, we need your program, you target to build 50 small hydropower by 2030. This is the target. But now the reality is that when the private investor come, there's a lot of study first, and the small hydropower, the fact that the small hydropower is not profitable. The problem is that some need subsidies and grants. So that is a problem that you have to solve to improve that sector.
Okay.
Yeah, we can come in. Luckily enough, I think Uganda is one of those countries where the private sector, especially in small hydro, has moved away from subsidies. We have a market which stands on its own for the last several years. Of course, in the past about 10 years, we had, probably you know about the Get Fit program, which supported quite a lot of investment in our country. There's some subsidies attached to this, the likes of dimmed energy and all these, and we had quite a lot of investment that came into the country, mainly by private developers. And this gave confidence to most of the investors, and now it's a market which is working independently without any subsidies. We have a relatively more stable regulatory environment. There are clear procedures. We have mainly what we call unsolicited projects in small hydros. So where an investor identifies a project, you go through a very clear and well elaborated project application process. get the permit with specified timelines, and you're able to run the project until the end. But like I said, there are some challenges which are not, most of them are not related to not policy or the will of the government. The will is there, regulations are there, the steps and procedures to follow are there. But there are some issues to do with maybe local capacity. So we find at the end of the day, mainly the sector is dominated by foreign investors, and mainly the local capacity is either technical or the financial capacity of the local companies and local developers to be able to move the project. Because having the relatively well-regulated environments, there are really very stringent procedures. You must prove beyond reasonable doubt to be able to get a permit to do the project. Some of the developers who are in this room, I know they know what it means to get the first permit in Uganda. You submit a list of quite very heavy documents, they check A to Z. You must prove beyond reasonable doubt that you will do the project, not only a feasibility study, but also to the project end. And this must be proved with financial statements for the last 3 years, everything. So this is where the market is. We have also, one of the challenges is that because the market has grown to a certain level, you cannot as a developer get more than one project at a time. You cannot do a portfolio of more than one project. Do one project, reach it to 70% construction completion, then you can be able to get the second project, single developer. So this is where the market, the reason is, in the past, of course, the market was a bit open, but because, of course, there are different sorts of interests by different developers. So people come, someone gets a project because they don't have enough capacity to do the project. They get project A, B, C, so they have 5 projects, and they block the market. So before you know, all projects are permitted, but no project is proceeding to commissioning. So to regulate this, one project at a time, prove that you can move it and get another one. That's simple. The rules are clear, no ways around this. So this is where the market is. Yeah, there are some issues, but it's a reliable market. We have some developers who have operated projects for, I think, 15 years or close to finishing their PPA period. Because our PPAs are 20 years. You can negotiate 25, but largely it's 20. We have standardized PPAs. We have the clear regulation, clear procedures and everything. So you just come pick. We have a renewable energy feed-in tariff. So there's a tariff ceiling. You just pick if it works for you. So it's simple but stringent. You have to check everything. Yeah. Yeah, if you don't mind, I just want to add some comments. Excuse me, concerning the situation for Cameroon under the control of the renewable energy. Actually, when we talk about the subsidies, this is for the studies only. Meaning that you can still develop your project if you are able to bring your project to bankability. That's one thing. The second thing is that we do have two interconnected networks. One in the north, the second in the south. It happens that the two interconnected networks are being connected together. There are projects to connect using 225 kV power lines. And this project is ongoing, funded by the World Bank and the African government and so on, other donors. Still in that framework, we are being connected to the neighboring country Chad. They actually need a lot of energy because they are using the thermal plants. And this is 100%, almost 100% in the night. 100% in the night. 10 years ago, no, 20 years ago, Nigeria, or Ignogo, they came to Cameroon and said, please, we need energy. We need up to 6,000 megawatts from you. Can you provide it? This is to say, in the near future, regardless of the actual situation of the country, in the near future, there will be a room for power generation. In Cameroon alone, in addition for the neighbor countries, Chad and Nigeria. Meaning that there is a room for generation, much more than what the country is needing. And we do have heavy industries willing to be established for the iron melting issue, things like that. And the last thing is that, given the fact that we do not have a feed-in tariff, this is an excellent point to make project cost effective. This is to say you can have a project with, let's say, 6 cents per kilowatt hour. Still in the same country, you have another project for, let's say, 8 cents per kilowatt hour. I'm talking under the control of one of the directors of the regulatory board. When you bring your file for PPA, they say, okay, tell us what is the capex, what is the opex, what is everything. You give the detail, they analyze, and they say, okay, this regarding your contribution to the network, to the power sector, this is what we can accept, and it can be different. The only small hydropower under construction is having a tariff for something. Anyway, it is more than 10 cents per kilowatt hour because they contributed to the closing of a thermal plant. So this is those are the small things we can. The last thing is that it is an evolving sector, meaning there are rooms for having a new regulation while doing the project. And you can still develop as many projects as you can, no limitations. With the mayors in the framework of HYPOSO, one city council is having 2 projects, or a small company is having 3 projects. I mean, there are rooms for investment, there are room for making projects attractive.
Thanks. Yes, for the small hydro in Bolivia, we already have done the study for the potential of hydro in Bolivia. That is about 40 gigawatts that we can install in Bolivia. So, but we don't have the specific study for small, just for large. Or that is the goal of our government right now, because we have to change our matrix, our energy matrix, because today we are generating with gas. 70% is coming from thermoelectric gas. So we have to change it. So not just from photovoltaic or wind and of small hydro as well. But there is no policies in Bolivia that encourage the small hydro. So why is that for? Because the projects that we already show it in that project. The project is too expensive. The energy comes from the small hydro is too expensive. But that we have to find of course, the interesting projects that can develop in Bolivia. So that is the reason that we need the specific study for small, to find that kind of projects and develop. So right now in the government, the plan is study and find that kind of project. It's in the agenda right now.
In Ecuador, we just finished this kind of study as well for the large, medium, and large from 25 upwards. And we have a byproduct, the small one as well. So there is like 6 gigabytes theoretical potential for small. So then the decision makers or sellers get interested because there's a huge potential. And but as my colleague says, it's the same. I mean, we have the rules, but the process to get the rules is too long. And mainly it's done by private sector who need to have a return. And that's why the projects usually. So I think we should improve how to speed up the licensing the process. And also what I see is that between the ministries there is no exchange of information. So for instance, if you use water for hydropower is different than using water for agriculture. And then they charge you the same. We discussed this topic during the tour. A cooperation between industries is also useful.
This is not even in Europe because we very often have, like we do with silos, they are doing this. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I think that in Colombia the thing is a little bit different because, in my opinion, we do have a really strong policy. What we have are bad politics. So it's the main thing. So what we have is that in the permitting side, we have two kinds of environmental authority. So we have a national authority that goes for large projects that are above 100 megawatts. So they're in charge of studying and giving the license to such big projects. And we have some local authorities that, in theory, they have to be aware and they have to know their own basin and they have to work accordingly and provide the environmental license according to the best way to regulate and manage the basin. So there are the local authorities. And what the law says is that each authority, depending on the project, can give terms of reference to do an environmental impact assessment study. So they are independent to say to you which kind of environmental impact assessment study you have to make and the amount of information you have to put in on that study. What happens is that these local authorities are political. So they are not technical, and the result is that they take the terms of reference for big hydro that are already made by the national authority, and they give it to you for a megawatt project. So you're making the same environmental impact assessment study for a 1 megawatt project than for a 2,000 megawatt project, and that's not possible. But the policy is there. It's written in the paper. You can do it. It's only the only thing that you have to do is work with them and to have more technical figures in those local authorities for them to understand the need of having different amount of information to give you the possibility to do a project that is small and for you to be able to have smaller times in these kind of projects that can make them available. And coming back to politics, it's what we have nowadays. I think that in all the world we have populism. Populism is a huge danger to energy because populism says that solar and wind projects are the best for humanity needs, and it may not be the case. I work in an environmental consultancy company, so I have done I studied lots of different projects, and recently we did a due diligence for a project, a solar project, a 300 megawatt project. And this project had to chop something like 60,000 trees in 900 hectares of a really protected ecosystem, and was generating the same energy than a 30 megawatt project, which we were occupying 5 hectares, chopping, 100 trees. And this small project was not agreed to do, and this solar project was. So I think that what has happened is that hydro has been in the world for a longer time. I think that companies that have developed hydro projects have some responsibility, because sometimes are not the projects, but are the companies that have made the projects which have made some mistakes during the construction or even the operation of the project have created a reaction from the people that have seen the hydro projects as bad. But I think that in a few years, people are going to start reacting also against solar and wind projects as we develop them.
May I? Sorry.
Please.
I have a representative of Colombia, but I would like to complement somehow and to bring some balance. Yes, because yes, starting from his last comment, large hydro has made a lot of mistakes, not only in Colombia, all around the world. And this has created a change in the public opinion about hydropower. And we are all together loading this backpack. But in Colombia, of course, as Sergio said, the new government has sent a very direct public speech about against large hydropowers and against dams and large reservoirs. But when this happened some months ago, we, and I say we, the small hydropower markets, realized that we should be organized. And in October we have created a new association of small hydropower plants. Currently we are 18 IPPs, all of them small hydro, and we have started an agenda. And we have started this agenda in January this year. And working very hard, very fast, we got very fast meetings with the highest policymakers in Colombia. We were seated with the ministers of energy and mining and the vice ministers and some commissioners in the regulation authority. We were seated there 5 weeks ago, and we told them basically we need to make a difference in the speech because we are renewables. And you know that we are renewables, and actually if we go to the law, we have to go to 2014 law and says that there are laws that actually recognize hydropower, small hydropower as renewables. In that time, 2014 defined it as projects below 10 megawatts. And they start saying, yes, we agree with you. And how can improve this? And we told them, okay, one first step is making higher this definition of a small item. Some people said 20, some others said 30, and some others said 50 megawatts. And they took note, and we keep working. And the first thing is that 1 week ago, the National Development Plan, that it's a very big law that's always is defined as the first of the government for the upcoming 4 years, says that from now, small hydropower will be defined as up to 50 megawatts. So this is a very big message. 50 or 50? 50. 50. This is a very important message from the political point of view and from the regulation point of view. And we need to understand it in the context of what is happening in Colombia. We are 70% hydropower in our electricity share. But the electricity share is the 45% of the total gross energy share. The 55% come from transportation, and for sure from liquid fossil fuels, okay? Gasoline and diesel. And this government has said we need to make a deep, and I mean a deep transition. Everyone in Colombia agrees with that. The question is how long, how fast should be made this transition? The government is saying we need to switch our production matrix. We need to stop depending on fossil fuels and to start to strengthen industrialization. They are saying this will be possible in 10 years. I disagree. It's not possible to double installed capacity about power generation, about grid transportation, and so on in 10 years. It's just not possible. And this is the very big discussion because they are enhancing renewables And they are expecting that this market will grow very, very fast. Some believe that it cannot grow so fast as they expect. But in this context, they are realizing about it. They say, okay, yes, we need a lot of solar, we need a lot of wind, we need grid. And when we were there 5 weeks ago, we told them, you also will need us. And the message 4 weeks after that meeting, saying that from now hydropower will be considered any hydropower, small hydropower will be below 50 megawatts. I believe it's a strong message about how the regulator, how the policymakers, besides all the problems that Sergio has said, but for sure we have problems. We have a lot of things to improve, for sure. But this is a strong message, and it's a strong message not only for Colombia, I believe it's a strong message for the region. As our colleagues from the neighboring countries are saying, and some of them they have lack of regulation, there is a country in South America saying we can build projects up to 50 megawatts, and I think it's something to consider and to keep strengthening the message that we need to work together as market.
Okay, great. Ingo, we have 6:30.
6:30. We wanted to be done by that. And actually, I think Leo, you have made a very good.
Absolutely, boss.
Last point. That there is actually a need to cooperate together, and if there is, let's say, in the market, one country that has already, let's say, pioneered in a part or in a field where other countries still need, let's say, to accelerate that. Then it's of course a good idea to connect, to work together, and learn from the, let's say, learn from the mistakes that were made everywhere, and learn also from the good concepts that have been made. Yes, how to conclude this panel very, very fast. Actually, I will only raise maybe the bullets that I think shall be highlighted. For example, from Colombia, that local plans are always a chance for regional development. That in answer to seeing problems of large hydro, of course, small hydros could be a solution, and especially for neighboring countries like Ecuador, the cooperation together with a more developed sector in Colombia could be seen maybe not as a threat, but maybe as a chance to work together, and in the best case, of course, use the European equipment. Else, also regarding regulation for Bolivia, just a lack of regulation for small hydropower could be recognized as a chance. As let's say the last statement was, that could be of course considered then in Bolivia. In Uganda, small hydro was identified to be because of the considerably lower costs compared to large hydro, of course, then as a chance for local companies that could then have a chance also to get into the finance carousel. And then in Cameroon we heard from the panel and also from Joseph that let's say the stable networks are in the focus, and of course knowing from different studies, Dirk mentioned one from Germany, small hydro can play there a very supportive role. Regarding the politicians, I just say that we have some countries where there is let's say already where there are reliable regulations, and some other countries where the steps still need to be taken. Of course, also recognizing studies as important, not to make any mistakes, not to develop any wrong sites, have been mentioned on the panel, and of course, regulation, speed of getting permissions, getting licenses is an issue. I would also just recommend and look into the good examples that exist. And of course, I mean, the political deciders are people, and they usually are also open-minded, so one just needs to speak. That was the solution or the recommendation also coming from Colombia. And yeah, with that, there's now a new association for small hydropower in Colombia that have already put small hydro limit to a capacity where we can dream of in Germany. We have our cap at 1 megawatt, and you have 50 times more, but I know the conditions are different, of course. But I think the good news at the end is that the sector is moving. I think all the colleagues that are here gathered should look what is going on in other countries, what is a good example, and by that I think I can close this final event with being aware that we have that there were mistakes in the past, but that there are considerably more chances, I think, for us in the future. Okay, and now you actually need to, when you have already briefed the colleagues how to get to the restaurant. So this is the... Stop. We're not done yet. Actually, the participants of the study tour maybe were informed that they are being filmed from time to time, and now we have a premiere of the video. So I hope this will not